Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the final day of Contenders Trials here on Monkey Bubble. We're bringing you the first of today's matchups on this channel, which is going to be Vox Nihili versus Samsung Morning Stars. I'm Big Hungry Phil, and with me, in a change to his usual preferred role on colour today, we have got the wonderful Sir Waltham. Waltham, welcome to the broadcast. How are you doing, and what have we got to look forward to today?
Thank you. I'm doing well, and I think we actually have a pretty exciting fight going ahead of us. We were talking a little bit about it before the production actually started here, Phil. These are teams that aren't at the top of their division. In fact, it's kind of the exact opposite. They're the two lower teams in this division, but that still provides an interesting dynamic here. Given some recent event in the group stages, we are now going to have one team being eliminated, and Samsung Morning Stars are in that immediate spot to be eliminated. They're absolutely going to have to be fighting here. The math we figured out here, they're going to have to basically be a 3-0 against Vox to really come out, still in these trial spots.
Yeah, so for those of you unaware how the maths breaks down for this, placements decided first by your win-loss score. So, for example, Sheer Cold currently sitting at 4-0. Samsung Morning Stars, the other side of that, 0-4. If you're equal on that one, it comes down to your map differential. And if you're even on map differential, it's down to who wins the head-to-head in the Swiss bracket. So there's a world here, as Walton was outlining, where if Samsung Morning Stars can get a 3-0 here, it puts Vox Nihili and Samsung Morning Stars on the same match score. It puts them on the same map score. And if Samsung Morning Stars can win the head-to-head, they just pip Vox Nihili to the post. So there is everything to play for here for Samsung Morning Stars. And just looking at their run through the bracket so far, their best match so far has been against current fourth place team Adastra Peraspera. So this is arguably their easiest game of the week against Vox Nihili. So if they were going to be 3-0ing anybody, it would be Vox.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly makes a little bit of sense when you look at it, right? They fought the top four, maybe three of the top four teams, and they haven't looked as successful. Vox sitting below all of them. It's going to be our best time to strike. We also have the advantage of hindsight where, they're not going into this not knowing where Vox Nihili is going to shake out. They know that they're fighting for their lives.
Yeah, they've got to be coming into this fully aware of how this is going to shake out for them. We have had some tape of Morning Stars already today. I got to cast them playing Sheer Cold yesterday, which, if you want some indication of how they're going to do, are on offer.
Oh, when you ask me that question, I immediately go towards the tanks, and towards that, it becomes, what aren't we seeing? And we're not seeing a lot of Sig Ori, and we're not seeing a lot of Reinhardt. Winston, Zarya, Roadhog, even the occasional Wrecking Ball if you're running a real heavy dive style composition, which some teams have been trying. Those are what we see to tend to come out here. In fact, we're going to see the Zarya on both sides, the Winston and the Roadhog.
In fact, we've got the fake Lion coming out on the Roadhog here is kind of the main difference maker on this. Shikari coming out on the Soldier is a thing I saw Morning Stars pull out yesterday. It never really worked out for them. I'm amazed they're still sticking with it here today. Let's see if they can find some success against a team that isn't Sheer Cold. On board with Alex on the Sombra, just pops out of the invis, won't quite find the hack, but getting a bit of a spray down will complete the hack. Won't find the pick on it just yet, but Morning Stars are already down one, now two players, and Vox Nihili in a great position here just to get the cleanup kills and generate some ult charge. Alex overstays as well, coming that one, receives the Helix rocket, but that will be the opening flick going over to Vox Nihili.
Yeah, Vox so far not looking very punished. They pretty much got to point faster. They were able to push up onto the side of the Morning Stars a little bit faster, and now things are starting to build up for them. We're already looking at Vendetta, going to have that pulse line on soon, and you don't want to let that Tracer get their team snowballing. That's the exact opposite thing you want here, Phil.
No, we're looking at the potential here of a big entry pick for Vendetta, who does now have that online and ready to go. Even just taking out one support here, pulls the leg out from the table. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We've got those technical issues ironed out, and our players were kind enough to pause and wait for us in the middle of a team fight. Lol. Morningstar's currently in control of the point with a couple of ults still here to play with.
Yeah, we're seeing that grab's going to come out, the pulse mine. We might see a little mini grab combo come out that I haven't seen for quite a while, but Kukabao might have the opportunity here. We see Alex setting up for an EMP as well. Might try to get an early engage off the back of that. That's what they try.
Ooh, that's nice. There's the manual hack as well. Alex is able to work down Fake Line, and now it's down to Theomatic with the Primal Rage to try and snowball this into another kill. Gets away into the backline, but runs out of the Primal Rage. Now back on board with Vendetta, who yeets the Pulse Bomb in, won't find too much, but Kukabao is going to fall in the meantime. Sound Barrier comes out from Frokidude here as well, and we have actually seen the flip come through now for Vox Nihili. They will come out of this with one ultimate to play with, but it was costly on the retake, and that's going to be the one remaining ultimate thrown out. They want to really secure this stagger onto Adnau at the back end of the fight.
Yeah, this is looking real good for Vox. That grab probably could have done without, but they got a little bit longer of a stagger, so it's going to be paying off for them in terms of time bank. But you look at the other side of the field, you look at the Morningstars. I don't like how they were using their ults towards the end of that fight. They threw in the grab, that didn't get anything, so they threw in a rally on top of that, which continued to not get anything. It felt a little bit iffy there to me, Phil.
But if you're looking at the ultimates currently available for Morningstars as well, you've got the Pulse Bomb, which is kind of a low impact ult. You've got the Whole Hog, which again, kind of a low impact ult. So you might be behind in the race in numbers, but the utility isn't really there for Morningstars either just yet. They've got to be very, very clever with those to find value. Speaking of which, here's Kukabao playing around the left-hand side of the drum here. Looking to try and close the distance. Wants to get a support, will find the stick, but the fade comes through. And we see a 1-for-1 trade here. Fake Line's going to come in with the Whole Hog, secures the hook, gets the follow-through, and Fake Line takes NKZ down. And Vox Nihili, they take it to 99-48. Morningstars secure the flip.
Yeah, and if you're Nat, you're feeling a little bit bad there. The Coalescence comes through. You try to save NKZ with it, but that Roadhog hook and burst damage coming through is just so powerful that even at half health, that Zarya is still pretty likely to fall. But now, as we look ahead, EMP online, as mentioned. So a big retake opportunity here coming in for Vox. No sound barrier to really counter it, too. Not a lot of defensive movement at all.
Oh, that's really good. The EMP hits 3, gets the supports, and Akaya somehow stays alive here. Explorer gets the grab off, and they just pile all the damage in the world in on top of that one ultimate, and they get the picks. And now Vox Nihili, they don't have that big can opener ultimate to start their final fights.
Yeah, and NKZ really going to be suffering for their team here. They have that Diva mech up, won't even be going for it. An incredible late stagger. Probably not going to be seeing a full team fight from the side of Vox here. And they have that sound barrier, but are they even going to be able to engage with it?
Well, they're going to have to throw it in at some point because it's not going to persist through to the next part of the map here. There's Throwkey with the aggressive sound barrier. A little bit too late for Theomatic, and it's a one-player advantage here in favor of Samsung. Morningstars make that a 2-player advantage. Looking like this might be Morningstars just sneaking the win out on this first sub-map on Busan. Feels like we got the tags back in here from Vox, but Kukabao is able to dodge even through the hack and keep themselves alive in this. This is another zombie fight here. They just know that they need to tag in and keep this going, but the fight's done regardless of what the timer says.
Yeah, that's just a fight where you have to have some major breakthrough come out to be successful. And at that point, you're just basically cycling your lives until either you run out of them or the other team slips up in a major way you can capitalize on. Didn't quite go that way. So right now, Morningstars do look like they have the lead over here. And overall, I think they're looking pretty good, but we're seeing back and forth from both these teams. We need to remember that Morningstars can't lose one here.
Morningstars have to have a perfect run through this, and then, they've set themselves up. They've got that first point on the board. They've only got to win this one additional sub-map, and that's it. They've got number 1 in the trial of 3 that they need to get themselves out of relegation into open division. But I feel like at least some of that from Vox Nihili was maybe a little bit of a lack of discipline in ultimates. I'm thinking particularly Alex with the EMP was maybe just a little bit too quick on the mark with that one.
Certainly it seems likely here. Once again, Theomatic getting very far ahead of themselves. They need to be playing careful here. Vox can get easily punished for that if they're a moment off.
This is an interesting rotation through to the point from Morningstars. They take that upper route in through the shop just to the left of that main choke. they will get their way through it and start to make the rotation down over towards the point, well ahead of Vox and Nihili here. In fact, Vox not really giving much of a contest here until, of course, Theomatic jumps in, will find the dive, but Shikari with the Helix Rocket is able to find one. That's a tank and a support offline. Vendetta and Alex able to punch back a little ways here, but this is an incredibly tradey fight, and it's Morningstars that have got the initial cap.
Yeah, and right now we see the side of Vox trying to play around this pillar, just trying to stall out for as long as possible, but they've already lost the point. At what time do you just decide we need to get out of this fight in general and regroup? They're still even having a little bit of hesitance to it as we see Nat continuing to try to get up ahead. They will force out that nano though.
Kookaburra is back in the fight, and the Nano Boost comes through onto Fake Lion on the Roadhog. Will get one pick with it, gets the most of the way to the ultimate ready for the next fight. Vox Nihili stayed in that fight for way too long, Wolfen.
I certainly have to agree with you here. They did, like I said, get that nano boost out, but you look ahead, they're only going to have their support ultimates, maybe an EMP online, and right now that's a lot of sustain, but you need that damage, that power coming through. The EMP might do it if they can shut enough people down.
It's certainly a good opening tool here, but instead of using that, they're going to go in with a Coalescence and an aggressive sound barrier. It buys a little bit of time, a little bit of confidence for Nat to focus down Shikari and secure a man advantage here, and they still hold on to the EMP. But now they've got to find a way to get through the additional armor that comes through from Adnar. Fearmax found a way to do that. Akai gets separated from the field of influence of that armor overheal from Adnar. That runs down, and now it's the man advantage for Vox, looking to come through and get the flip. But Morningstar did a good job here of getting us most of the way towards capped.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give some credit here over to Vox. They did a great job. I said that they didn't have the impact with those ultimates. Nat turned that on its head, used that Coalescence for a lot of damage to focus down those low targets after they were already brought to those critical points, able to really tip the tides in a favor for the team. And now all they have to do is hold, but that might be easier said than done.
Oh, might see the bigger bang. Vendetta with the double. Didn't actually combo with anything there, just raw on their own. They were all gathered around trying to pile damage into Explorer's Graviton Surge, and the Pulse Bomb just picks them apart.
Yeah, and now, as we look again, Vox going to have the opportunity to cycle ults maybe just a little bit here. Nat, again, having that Coalescence means that Vox can stay in the fight for a little bit longer, hopefully build up some ults of their own. They're going to have to keep eyes out, though. Akaya going to be soon on that nano boost of their own. If they put it on the Fake Lion, a lot of one-hit potential there.
Akai's been generating these pretty quickly. I think it was only maybe 1 or 2 fights ago that the Nano Boost was ready. We'll see that come out already, and it's going to go on to Explorer. Doesn't have the most charge in the world, but starting to make that work. Secures the D-Mech, looks to get the work over onto the Tiny Diva here as well, and we're looking pretty good for a recontest and a retake here from Samsung Morningstars. Explorer will get focused down, but Shikari finally starting to find a little bit of value with the Soldier pick. There's the flip, but they're not out of the woods just yet. It's not a full team fight here for either team. Fake Lion's got something to say about that. Pops the whole hog, blasts what's left of Vox away from the points.
Yeah, and if you're Fake Lion, that's the perfect opportunity to use that whole hog. You know, numbers are light anyway. You just need to buy space onto the point. That's exactly what's achieved as we go into this zombie fight.
Oh, self-destruct comes in around the back, but it goes high, it goes wide, it does not find its target, and Shikari gets the opening frag. Vendetta out of the fight. Kookaburra now playing up on the high ground, will have the pulse bomb ready to go, needs to watch the Diva, doesn't want to get this eaten when it could be the pick that really closes this out here. Toe-to-toe there with the opposing Moira, abandons that fight, but turns around, finds some value, and it's now down to working down these final few supports, and Morningstar's looking good here to get the 2-0 on Busan and start the first leg of that journey to the 3-0 and remaining up in Contenders trials for the next season.
Yeah, Samsung Morningstars so far looking very good. I mean, going 0-2 on Busan is exactly what you need here. You can't really, you can't lose anything here. This is penultimate, and overall, I'm pretty content with what we're seeing from these teams. I agree. Shikari on that Soldier, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, seems like a little bit of a doubtful or perhaps questionable pick. But in the end, I think it definitely provides you that consistency and even a little bit of cleanup that, you know, sometimes the Hog will pull somebody in and, you know, deal a lot of damage, but they're just 1 or 2 shots away. That Soldier can really sometimes provide that tipping point.
I think we have seen quite a number of kills coming in here from Shikari that are just the Helix rocket connecting, particularly with a low HP target like a Pilot Form Diva or the Tracer. And so looking for those combos with the hook here, I think has been a really good tactic for Samsung Morningstars. It didn't work out particularly well against a higher seeded team yesterday. Sheer Cold just knew exactly how to pick apart this soldier pick and the combos it sets up, but they are finding some mileage with it here against Vox Nihili.
Yeah, and whenever I see a Roadhog Diva kind of competition, or whenever the comps seem to lean that way, I always get a little bit hesitant because it's gonna show, you know, how good or bad the Diva is specifically. If the Diva sees somebody get pulled in, they need to be reactive. And so far, I think that the Morningstars are just running away with that a little bit more, a little bit better. It's a lot harder to do that now, admittedly, than it was in, you know, patches of a long ago era where, you know, the Matrix was, what, 50% greater than it is now. So overall, I think Nihili might need to tighten up on that a little bit if we want to see them really kind of overcome that Roadhog obstacle that's been a real burden for them.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's maybe something they want to start trying to adapt into themselves. They've been running the Winston Zarya for the maps we've seen from them so far. Yeah, there's a little bit of I think a back and forth at the highest level of play at the minute as to whether or not it's really acceptable, appropriate, effective to run the Roadhog. But Morningstar's here making an argument that it really is, and Vox Nihili maybe need to give themselves that additional threat. And we'll get the chance now to see whether or not that's what they choose to bring out here as we move into our next map. It's going to be our hybrid map for today, which is going to be Hollywood. And I'm kind of expecting, Waltham, that we're going to see more of the same here. Shikari has been running the soldier across at least 2 days of play so far.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I'm a little bit more comfortable with the soldier pick on Hollywood. There's a lot of areas where soldier can utilize that high ground. You know, we used to see the Torbjorn set up on top of Cafe all the time. I feel like soldier can get some decent value there as well as on top of the offices that overlook that choke. Perhaps leaves you a little bit exposed, especially if you're not playing something like the Sigma or the Ori to really put a stationary shield there. But I'm a little bit more bullish on the soldier if he goes in here on that defense. Offense, I think you could probably do something a little bit better, although that completely disregards what Shikari just might be trained for.
Quite possibly. And I think the adaptation that we've got here from Vox and Nihili, who are going to be playing on the defense, I think that's actually a pretty good one. The damage boost onto Alex here could really do a lot to pick apart Morningstars on their way through, particularly if that TNT can connect with quite a few people. I don't know that I buy Morningstars coming out with what they've currently got showing. They are still in spawn. The J Silly probably not coming out here.
Yeah, I'd be a little bit doubtful. I can see the Sombra coming out just for a little bit of scouting, but it looks like even that's going to be questionable. And are we actually going to be seeing the pulled pork combo come out? It looks like...
No, it's got to be Shikari up and scouting up front, passing back some info. I think that's a good read, actually. Kukabao moving over onto the Ash here as well.
Yeah, and then Shikari going to be on that Hanzo, getting hopefully a lot of spam damage, and already early on. Oh my goodness.
Man, that's an opener for you. And Kukabao finds Alex as well. And honestly, Vox Nihili may as well not have turned up to this defense. They've taken down 1/3 of the team already. There is going to be a big anti-in over the top of Morningstars, but they can back away from the damage and start to get that healed up. Will not quite see the first tick come through yet, but Kukabao is playing very defensively away on the side here, punishing everybody as they try and come through. And Vox Nihili, they've got to regroup, they've got to get in and start contesting this, because otherwise Morningstars are coming through this with a ridiculous time back to show for this on the first push, but the kills are coming through consistently here. Akaya generates a phenomenally quick nano boost, throws it onto Explorer, who gets the rundown on Vendetta. The tanks are now back from Vox Nihili. They're starting to come back in and keep this contest going, but it seems like there's too much momentum here for Morningstars, Waltham.
Yeah, and you said pretty much the summary of that. You know, very early on, Kukabao was playing very defensively, and that really opened up that first point. It allowed the Morningstars to get those really, you know, close range preferring characters, the Roadhog, the Diva, the Tracer, right up onto that point. I believe it was Adnar just posted up with Kukabao. I kept thinking in the corner of my mind, okay, Vox are going to have to go through this hallway and deal with it at some point. It just didn't seem like they did.
We'll see some swaps coming in through here for Vox Nihili. They've now gone on to the double sniper, and it's already been doing some work. 66% and climbing. Bit of body damage thrown in here. But look at the ults that Morningstars have to play with. They've got everything except the pulse bomb.
Yeah, certainly going to be a lot in here. Bob going to be used as the initiator
Wow.
we spoke about.
In fact, both Bobs thrown in and both Bobs put down for a nap for at least a little while here. It's going to be Shikari that gets the opening frag that actually counts for anything. Nat's down, Alex is down, and we've seen this happen before. You take the first two out, there's no way that the rest of Vox are going to be in this fight in a meaningful way. That's unfortunate for Froki. Flew into the line of fire of the Roadhog hook and was dealt with.
Yeah, it felt like an equally expensive fight there in terms of ultimates for both teams, but Shikari going to make that a little bit less favorable in terms of ults for the side of the Morningstars by taking out Theomatic, but you get that stagger late on. Yeah, it does force out the res from Froki even more, so perhaps you're getting your value for it there.
Oh man, Kookaburra tried to get out of the way of that TNT, did actually get winged by it as well. Luckily, he's got a pocket there to keep him alive through that. Adnad ducks down onto low ground to bring Akaya, and Fake Lion starts to press the advantage, closes the distance, had a line through there to try and deal with Alex, but missed the hook and took a face full of TNT for his troubles. Self-destruct on the point from NKZ. Looks like we're going to see the D-Mech come through there onto Explorer, but it's a big trade, and now Pilot Form D for Explorer is going to be doing some shooting of their own as he tries to generate this mech back in. Whole hog from Fake Lion hasn't been enough. No, he does it. He makes just enough space for the team to scoop that payload through.
Yeah, and Shikari with an impressive double kill on the pulse mine there certainly didn't hurt either, but as we look ahead, now things, you got to start buckling down if you're on the side of Vox Nihili, because you don't have a lot of ultimates. You have Theomatic's Primal. That's going to buy you some time, maybe the opportunity to buy some more. Then,
oh no,
taking down Alex is going to make the Bob even harder to come by. This is not looking great. They need to recompose themselves now.
It looks like we're not going to see that res come through onto Alex. I guess with how close the spawns are and how far away Morningstars are, there's no real need for it. Instead, we see Theomatic dive way into the back, almost on his own there. And the D.Va and the Mercy have to fly to his aid to buy him time to get out and survive through this fight. But Morningstars are doing a good job here of just burning resources, diverting attention, making it so that Vox Nihili aren't properly contesting the cart. NKZ gets the hook out, gets hooked in, will escape through this, and Kookaburra finds the opening pick with a Bob coming through and dealing with Theomatic. Fake Lion one more time is going to receive this. Nano Boost gets the hook. Nano Boost comes through onto NKZ here as well, really going to help them generate that self-destruct to try and clean up in this last fight. Vendetta finds the pick onto Shikari, and it is hook after hook after hook from Fake Lion on a one-man fishing trip here, and every time at the end of that line, does appear to be NKZ. However, Vox Nihili are able to get the picks here to force Morningstars back for now.
Yeah, I was getting real worried there for the side of Vox. It seemed like their tanks were getting way too aggressive and they weren't covering their snipers as much as they could be. In the end, it seemed like it worked out for them, but the question is, can they keep up with that momentum? Can they keep up with that? In fact, we're going to be seeing the tank swaps come out. Theomatic now on the hog. Taking on Fake Lion, that might be just what they needed.
Man, you got to be happy with a pick like that. Will stop that contest coming back in for another 10, 15, maybe even 20 seconds. And all the while, this is beautiful, valuable time burnt off the clock by Vox. That's a heck of a hook from Theo. Kookaburra's going to go down, but Theo gets the sleep, and NKZ is there with the defense measures to keep him alive through all that incoming damage. It's another hook, and the entire tank and DPS lineup of Morningstars chase him through the whole way, but with the take a breather and the pocket healing, he will get out of that for now. Theomatic will eventually fall. Trip once more. Sleep will interrupt that whole hog here, and now he's in the line of fire of the Bob. Unfortunately, he's not going to have the rest of that ultimate to play with, but it's just Bob contesting the cart now. Shikari will take him out of the equation, and Explorer finds a pick here with the self-destructs. We'll see Froki looking to get close and maybe offer a race here onto Nat, but I don't think he has that off cooldown just yet. So it's not the most advantageous fight here for Vox Nihili. Samsung Morningstars with a massive player advantage. They're doing a lot to control space here. Akaya getting in on the damage, taking Froki out of the fight, and Morningstars might be very close to getting this catwall them.
Yeah, Akaya needs to maintain something here, but getting taken down by NKZ is not the way to go. However, they get that mistake reversed basically by the res coming through.
NKZ gets dislodged from the spin cycle, but buys the time for Theo and Vendetta to get back in on the action. But the bodies just aren't there for Vox, and Morningstars complete the map with just over a minute to spare.
Yeah, it was looking a little bit scary there for the Morning Stars. They seemed to really have a problem when Vox matched their tank line. It seemed like Theo and NKZ were a little bit more coordinated at times with that Roadhog coming through, as opposed to especially what we saw with the Winston. I think the EMEA made a couple questionable calls there. So, you know, I think that's much more credit to the side of Vox. They knew kind of what wasn't working. They switched probably a little bit later than we would have liked to see, but they did make the switch, and it bought a lot of time for them.
But I think one of the things we should consider here is that it did buy time for them, but it took them a very, very long time to adapt. They didn't get a point A, they barely got a point B, and it was only when the respawn advantage was massively in their favor that they really started to generate any kind of break force on the card, and they can't afford that here. They can't afford to have all of the time burnt down on A and B on their offense, because otherwise Morningstars move up to match point here.
Yeah, I certainly have to agree. It's not something you can take risks here with, because again, Samsung Morningstars, if they win this, then they get to move on. We've heard that. But there's the other side of the coin. If Vox lose it, then they're moved down back to open division. So they're really going to want to stick in here. I'm liking the change of DPS. I don't know if Double Sniper was the flavor I liked.
No, although in fairness, Vendetta was finding picks, but it wasn't coming through at a quick enough rate here. Vendetta takes a bit of a flack on the way through. Maybe wants to rotate through security here and drawing some attention to point. Actually going to go all the way past security. Maybe rotate and try and find support up on the high ground. But Kukabao has found a bit of magic here already. Deals with Nat, flushes out the res, and Shikari gets the follow through over the top of the TNT. And Alex is down. No res on the table. That's got to be a reset here for Vox.
Yeah, it looks like that's what they're going to be doing, but the EMEA getting caught out here. It doesn't look like the rest of Morningstars noticed this, so that's going to give them a little bit momentum to push up here. Not a lot of ults to speak up yet on the board. These fights have been going fairly slow, as we're already almost a minute down on this time bank.
Yeah, this has been a great delay tactic here from Morningstars. They're not out and out winning the fight, but they're getting picks, they're doing damage, they're pushing out resources, and it might just be enough to slowly take them through this. Vendetta comes up with a big pick here with the pulse bomb, and Ad now goes down as well, so there's little to no chance of a res. Nice interrupt on the follow-through damage from the hook there, from the bubble coming out from Explorer. Shikari's going to fall here as well. The best you can hope for here if you're Morningstars is just to flush out some more resources from Vox.
Yeah, but I mean, you compare these two attacks. Vox, it took them a minute and a half to get towards that point, and once they were there, they weren't interrupted. They didn't get... Samsung Morningstars didn't allow themselves the opportunity to continue getting those respawn staggers that we've talked about, and now they're ready to go for the second point.
There's actually not much difference in time. Like, I think there's maybe 20 seconds difference between the Morningstars cap and the Vox Nihili cap. So it's now going to be up to Morningstars to try and do their best to come up with a little more time burn off the clock on streets than Vox managed. And that's a good way to start. Vendetta is down. You need Vendetta here to draw out attention, to make life difficult for anybody to get comfortable and set up sightlines and find picks. We'll see the Nano Boost come through here. Shikari's going to pop the Tactical Visor in over the top. Finds a pick there with the Helix Rocket, and only going to find a lot of space again and a lot of time, and it sends Vox right back to spawn, but Vendetta makes the swap back over onto the Widowmaker and takes Shikari out of the equation.
All right, Vendetta's turning me around a little bit now, but that's okay if you're looking at it from Vox. They're just trying to build some ultimates, and they're going to start investing them now. They have the Nano Boost, they have the Valk, they're going to have the Grab, and they're going to have Bob versus just a Valk on the opposition, plus potentially taking down Kukabao. Not quite.
Man, Kukabao survived way longer than Kukabao really had any right to survive in that exchange. He's out-surviving a lot of his teammates. This is the second dive that's come in from Alex to try and dislodge Kukabao, and it still hasn't worked. Even with Vendetta getting in on the action, they can't dislodge Kukabao. They finally make it happen, and this has not been the biggest time drain in the world. Morningstars will get one more crack at the defense, though.
Yeah, and now we're going to be seeing that Bob come online. And when you talk about time drains, Bob can be one of those ultimates that is most effective in it. You can just sit on cart and focus that fire from the defensive team, or from the offensive team, rather, as we do see now the Bob from Alex.
It was Alex with the Bob from the high ground, and the Bob coming out from Kookaburra will get almost immediately slept, but it buys enough space for Kookaburra to find the pick and take Alex out of the equation. Bob's still alive and making space, and this is where moving this payload gets that little bit harder, because it is right on that incredibly defensible corner.
Yeah, and Nat in a very rough position here. We often see Diva staggers, a little less on the Ana staggers, and that was a huge opportunity for Vox. They really needed to punch through there, and now they're in a little bit of a danger of being caught up, but not to take down Shikari.
No, not quite enough, but Vendetta, with a big equalizer, finds the double, gives us the cheeky wave to let us know exactly how pleased he was with himself on that one. Now goes for the rotation onto the left-hand side. Back up onto the high ground instead. Might get the D-Mech through here. Flushes them out of the high ground. And there's a nano-boosted Roadhog away on the far shingling to deal with here. Will have the hook, but misses on that one. Still able to pile in some damage, but with the pocket there from the Mercy, it means that Alex can, by and large, out-damage and out-heal anything that Fake Lion can do. And they will move the payload through into point C.
Yeah, it looks like just the point presence wasn't there. You could probably say that Samsung looked good for that fight initially, but they just took it a little too far forward. They got a little too discombobulated, and Vox were able to just walk it in at this rate. 3 minutes on the clock leaves them in a decent position to build up some ultimates, as once again we see quite a few already on that barrier, that Alex, Froki, NKZ, all very close, as well as Vendetta having those infra sites.
But this has been really unfortunate for Morningstars. Everybody died so late in that fight after the point was capped that they're only just managing to get the recontest going now, and the payload is on its final approach, and Fake Lion gets taken out. It's a sleep for a sleep on a Bob there. Kookaburra's going to go and throw that one in, but will find a lot of that potential wasted due to the sleep. Explorer finds a pick here, but NKZ has a lot of charge, and he's got the grab. He somehow gets it in around the defense matrix, and this is looking so good now for Vox Nihili. Morningstars really heavily on the back foot, and they've thrown in ults. They're only going to have one, maybe two ults available for this final fight.
Yeah, that's really a problem that started all the way back in second. As you pointed out, they weren't quite able to get regrouped because of that late death, but the touch will be coming through at the last moment.
Oh, that's a beautiful sleep, but Kookaburra gets run over by the Bob here, and this recontest is gonna get even harder. Explorer will have the self-destruct, throws it away into the back line, and will find Nat. Nat running basically alongside that self-destruct here. Explorer gets a second, taking Vendetta out of the fight. Will also eat the TNT here, but can't do anything to eat what NKZ is throwing his way. NKZ with another Graviton Surge, throws it in, has the high charge, has the follow-up potential, but Shikari is on a tear here, able to get two, and the punch comes through and dislodges NKZ away from the fight. And against all odds, Morningstars stabilize.
Yeah, Morningstar's fighting tooth and nail here, and the real credit goes to the respawn timer coming in. Vox just not able to get those kills fast enough, and because of that, we start seeing, yeah, they'll get one, but Morningstars have them out before they can really wipe the point full and clean. Got a little bit hairy there, but it's going to be a breath of relief coming in from the Morningstars as these infra sites are popped.
Yeah, infra sites are fine. It buys you a little bit of space, but given how enclosed this final space is, there's nowhere really for you to aggress in and make use of that and find an opening pick. And we're already down in time bank here for Vox Nihili compared to Morningstars. As the trades start to come through, Explorer's able to get a run down on Vendetta. Theomatic will find a pick there, help secure the D-Mech, and then the kill onto Explorer keeps themselves in the fight for now, but they are still at a numbers disadvantage with now less than a minute on the clock to go. Fake Line is still here on the Wrecking Ball, will be respawned in time for this final fight, and will have the minefields to throw in.
Yeah, definitely going to be looking to buy a little bit of zoning out. They need to get this cart capped before that overtime timer hits, since we are in the hybrid game mode with a minute left on the clock. We're going to be seeing those mines hit immediately.
That's two picks already, but Fake Lion hooked out of that one, and the minefield's largely cleared. Self-destruct thrown in as well, and now if you're Morningstars, you just want to keep this going until you get into the overtime timer. If they can drag out another 1.5 seconds, they'll make it work. That's it. Ooh. That's the overtime timer. So no time left on the clock here for Vox, even as they complete the match.
Yeah, that is very good for the Morningstars. It was looking very competitive for those first two rounds. They had very similar time banks as we kind of talked about, as we alluded to. I mean, Fox looking a little bit worse for wear there, but really that third point is where it came to. There was a last fight that, well, it seemed like the last fight for the side of Morning Stars, but they managed to just cling on to that hope, and they stopped it at like, what, 1.5 meters? So overall, very impressive from them, and they're going to get rewarded for their efforts.
You would like to say, looking at a 1:06 time bank coming into point A, that's a very easily defensible time, but we've seen from both of these teams on their attack run through here that they only need about a minute to make it happen. Last time they ran through this, Morning Stars basically picked apart Vox Nihili almost as they arrived at the point ready to fight. Vox cannot allow this to happen. If they lose 1/3 of a tick here, that's it. They move forward into match point, and they're then defending that one final map to stay up in Contenders. This is looking very good for Morning Stars.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Morning Stars, all you have to do is look for that one mistake, that one out of position person that Fake Lion can capitalize on. It's a tale as old as the meta. Roadhog gets a hook, gets a kill, and that's a pretty solid fight win. But the question is, can they capitalize upon that? We're gonna have to find out.
They start to make their way through to point. No real changes here from Morning Stars. They've been running this all game long so far, and it's been working out pretty well for them. So Thematic versus Fake Line is the exchange you're going to be looking for. Can't quite find the hook on the sleeping Roadhog. The angle, a little bit too acute on that one for it to connect properly. Shikari now running up onto the high ground, and Kukubao's got the entry frag. There are no supports here. You cannot give Kukubao any space, any angles, any opportunity to find a head, because he will take it off your shoulders, and that is it. Nothing doing here for Vox. Morning Stars looking to move forward in the series with that 2-0 scoreline.
Yeah, and I was... It's all just going to come down to these final kills.
It's dead, yeah.
I was basically... I had that in my mind. Like, you know, they need to be careful of Kukubao, but I was giving credit to Vox. I'm like, no, they're not going to let that same positioning go pretty much unpunished. And then that's exactly what we see happen. I was talking about the hog this entire time. It was Kukubao who gets really into those off angles and just deals that damage, dishes it out like a buffet.
Yeah, it's a really unfortunate situation for Vox, because I know that they have players equal to the caliber of Kukubao, but I feel like Alex just isn't being given the same opportunities and the same support that Kukubao is being given. And Kukubao just always has something to fall back on it, whether that's somebody body blocking for him, whether that's the res available, whether that's just the pocket healing from both supports at the same time to keep him alive and clicking heads. It just feels like Alex doesn't have that same level of support.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that can be said, right? It looks like Vox kind of tend to get a little bit discombobulated in terms of the whole team, and that's not even speaking just, you know, support for the DPS or tanks for the DPS. We saw that in the tank lines as well. We saw, I think it was Theomatic on that Winston dive in real deep with that primal, almost gets picked off, and just barely manages to recollect themselves because of those extra leaps that the primal rage gives you. And because of that, they're able to get with their tanks. They're able to get with NKZ to get the Matrix in. They're able to get with Nat to get the healing in. So almost by, I don't want to say sheer luck, but by the skin of their teeth, they were able to get regrouped and not get aggressively punished for that.
Yeah, you hate to try and categorize these things at a look, but what can look like is just like very, very tiny decisions that all get like grouped up together and suddenly make this one big advantage over the course of time. And you know, looking at the run through the bracket here from both Vox and Samsung Morning Stars, it's not like there is a lot separating these two teams. Like they're both in the same portion of the bracket. They've both got roughly equivalent power levels, and so it comes down to not like one team being just mechanically better. It's down to like just tiny differences in how all this decision making comes together.
Yeah, and I want to highlight how crucial 6 seconds can play in that last game we saw. Because without the 6 seconds, if you finish in overtime as Vox, you're still fine. You still get a chance to attack. But it was just Morning Stars had it that 6 seconds over, that 5 seconds over. And because of that, they didn't give the opponents any time. So you think, oh, a minute's a pretty long time in Overwatch. It's not a minute. It's that 5 seconds.
Yeah, it seems like a small difference, but when you are playing for remaining up in Contenders Trials, it makes all the difference. And now at match point, we're moving into what could be our final map set for both Vox and Morning Stars in this season of Contenders Trials, and we're moving over to Junkertown, our payload map for today.
Yeah, and when you say Junkertown, based off of what we've seen so far, I want to be optimistic on Vox for this one. We've seen them run that double sniper so far in other maps. We've seen it on Hollywood. So it tells me that this map favors a composition that they lean towards, that they're a little bit more comfortable with. Whether that's actually something they trained for remains to be seen. And even still, that only really applies to the first round, or the first phase, the first point, I should say. And as, you know, the map goes on, that can become a little less relevant. Still excited to see Alex and Vendetta kind of bust through on this defense if possible.
Well, we've not quite got the mirror matchup here. Actually, there's a couple of differences. We've got the Diva coming through from Explorer versus the Shield presence from NKZ. But it's very easy here for Morningstars to come and make adaptations to deal with the defensive setup. It's not quite so easy for Vox to do that. They're going to be relying on Vendetta playing these ridiculously long sight lines and finding value. Worth noting, though, that with the recent changes to Widowmaker, these long sight lines just got a lot harder to play.
They certainly did, and it's a little bit harder to play the Roadhog when you're dead as well. We're seeing now Vox take those initial kills, and you know, just one kill on the defense is sometimes enough to buy a lot of time off the time bank. That's certainly what it's looking like here, as we're just seeing now. They're kind of coasting for the time being, although looks like the Ash is still trying to duel it out.
Yeah, Kookabout maybe got a little bit cocky on that one, thought he could win the 1v1, didn't realize it was in fact a 1v2 with the Roadhog getting in on the action. Kookabout will get brought back in here, but given that they've lost Shikari and Explorer's mech, I'm not expecting Morningstars to put much more pressure on Vox Nihili just yet.
Yeah, it was successful, but I did not like that res coming through from Adnar. You had Theomatic standing right over you, and you were just one left click away from taking a brutal death alongside that Ashe. But early kills coming in for the defense, once again, going to serve them incredibly well. They're looking to just pretty much stagger out these fights as long as possible. The less fights you have to take, the less opportunities you have to lose.
Yeah, this has actually been played really well so far by Vox. They just want to hold here at the choke where they know they've got all of this space control available to them. Nice rock comes out from NKZ, but he takes a bit of a winging on the way through. Alex able to find Kookabout here, and that's going to be, once again, having lost just that one player, not a lot more that you can do. Did see the Pilot Diva just jettisoning across the map there, being thrown away by Theomatic's whole hog. Kills now coming through again for Vox Nihili, and Morningstars are looking a lot more lost than they have so far this map set.
Yeah, and it just seems like they have that confidence in their snipers when they're able to, when they know they're playing sniper compositions and they know how to play them on the specific map. It seems like they're able to get enabled so much more, kind of like what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Alex trying to duck under that rock, doesn't quite find it though. But as I was saying, it's looking like the snipers just look so much more comfortable from the side of Vox. And we're seeing that now. We're looking ahead, though. As we see, we're going to be seeing the Gravitic Flux come in from NKZ. Nat has that Transcendence, so the opportunity to lock down and maintain very strong coming in here for Vox.
Well, we're going to see that Flux come through. Looks like it's going to get one fake line caught in the deadly snare of the Gravitic Anomaly. And we're now getting close to below the minute mark here for Morningstars. And they just haven't got an answer for Vendetta because he is so uncontested for almost all of this map.
Yeah, Vendetta really looking like a powerhouse so far, although now there's the opportunity here. We saw that Gravitic Flux come in. It means now Ultimate's in favor of the side of the Morningstars. They need to make these count. They need to get at least some progress on the board. They haven't been getting a whole lot thus far, but one of their biggest issues is going to be with Vendetta, and Shikari and Kookabout don't really seem to have that target focus on them, or at least the pressure on them quite yet.
And the thing I'm concerned about is looking at Nat here with the Transcendence, because pretty much everything that can come out here from Morningstars can be taken out of the equation by that Transcendence. However, it's coming in a little bit too late for Froki and for Alex, as Shikari is able to find them with the Stormbow. Kookabout gets Vendetta. We are rapidly closing in on overtime here, but finally, Morningstars turn up to the fight, and Kookabout has a good angle to stop the recontest coming through.
Yeah, and we know that when Kookabout takes those off angles, those hard cut angles, they can look very dominant there. Even putting some pressure onto Theomatic, making them have to use that breather early on, and certainly going to be calling out that positioning of the Hog. The Infrasight's going to definitely be helping out with that as well. In fact, allowing Shikari to get those kills. But overall, this cart having to get through here in overtime is costly for the Morningstars.
Yeah, this is going to be down to which of the snipers goes down first, but Nat's able to find Shikari here. Adna goes down as well. There are no ults available here for Morningstars. They're a long way from having the gravitic flux, and this is likely where it's going to fall down here. They tag off the cart, and that is it. That is as far as the payload is going, and now, if Morningstars want to stay in here, they've somehow got to stop Vox capping first points.
That is so unfortunate for the Morningstars as we see that Sigma Gravitic Flux come in. The 2 kills reign true, and you would have preferred to have those before that overtime ticked down. Maybe you get the point flipped over by then, but even still, it would have been a hard battle, an uphill battle for the Morningstars to have to fight. And right now, Vox pretty much have their work cut and dry for them. They got to get it to basically that first point. And with the level of skill we've been seeing coming out of Vendetta, out of Alex, and the team in general, I'm definitely optimistic about their chances here.
However, over the course of the map, over the course of the match, even what we have seen is that Morningstars typically have had the DPS advantage. Kukabao and Shikari seem to have had the upper hand over Alex and Vendetta, and now that the positions are flipped here, and we've got a defensive Widowmaker from Kukabao where you are always more favored, we could actually see a fuller hold on this one. It's still got to get its way through this big, powerful choke in the middle of the map, and Kukabao can control these sightlines just as well as Vendetta.
That certainly has the opportunity here. The proof is going to be in the pudding as we look ahead. And Shikari on this Hanzo, it's different from the Ashe, but I'm not entirely as against it as I thought I might be. Hit scan usually a little bit more favored to that projectile stance, but Shikari's been making it work so far, especially with those dragons really forcing out some uncomfortable movements.
Yeah, he certainly come up with some clutch kills as and when they're needed. You might want a little bit more consistency in the long run, but if he can continue to find picks in the way he has been doing, then he's in a great position. Kukabao up against Vendetta on the trick shot, did land a body shot onto that one, but now operating at the sort of range that Widowmaker is no longer doing that full blast of damage.
Certainly, and now as this cart begins to round, not a whole lot of action shaking out in either direction. A little bit standard for Junkertown. You don't see too much hard brawling until this cart makes its first turn, but Samsung Morningstars starting off great, but Fake Lion kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. They feed themselves into that fight early on.
I love this aggression from Alex, actually doing a lot of heavy lifting here, puts the damage in over the top of Shikari, and Morningstars are falling apart here. I don't see them contesting this in a meaningful way, Waltham. This is likely to be done and dusted, and it might not be the map win just yet for Vox Nihili, but they needed that 3-1 scoreline. They needed that 3-0 scoreline to secure their place in Contenders trials, and now that is gone from their sight.
Yeah, they can pretty much kiss that goodbye, but usually when we build up those high stakes, it's easy to forget that there's still a game here. There's still just a strict competition going between these two. Yes, you could look at the greater implications this have, but still, Samsung Morningstars don't want to walk away being completely defeated. They're still going to be fighting here to not walk away with that 0-5.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate here for Morningstars that their offensive run was so lackluster compared to what we've seen from them previously. Like, it almost feels like they ran out of momentum. Like they knew what they had to do and they just went, okay, we're kind of tired now. We don't really have it left in us anymore. Which is a real shame because I was sort of rooting for this 3-0 for Morningstars because it felt like a little bit of an underdog story. Unfortunate that that's not going to be their position, and back down to open division for them at the end of this season of Contenders Trials. But as you say, still the win to play for. They still are at match point. This one more win on our next map could see them at the very least put one on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, Volskaya certainly going to be the opportunity here. You talked about the potential for them being a little bit tired. I'm going to hope the best for Samsung and say that Vox perhaps just played a little bit of a comfortable comp on Junkertown, kind of like what I was ruminating on at the beginning of that map. The Widowmaker Ashe probably not as likely to be seen here. Yeah, you see Widowmaker on Volskaya every once in a while, but it's certainly not the most dominant strat that we see a lot of the times. I think it's going to shake out here that Samsung Morningstars, I'm going to go ahead and say this might be a 3-1 here if they play like Hollywood and not like Junkertown.
Well, the other possibilities, of course, that we are at the start of the reverse sweep, so maybe we've got a full 2 maps to come after this if we see Vox drag out the win here. And given how they were playing on Junkertown, genuinely wouldn't surprise me here.
Yeah, a big upswing in momentum, definitely something to point out there. Vox definitely kind of getting that breath of life, definitely getting the opportunity to swing in as we talk about. Also worth noting, these teams are going to be switching sides, so a little bit of a different opportunity here. Morning Stars, I believe, are going to be starting off on the defense. It's going to be the attack coming in from Vox.
That's right. So again, not a lot of changes coming out on the defense here. This has been the bread and butter for Samsung Morning Stars, and it's been working out more or less. I think the one wrinkle we've seen here is Shikari, and I'm starting to get the impression that Shikari maybe has what you call an unusual hero pool, considering so far we've seen Tracer, Soldier, and Hanzo. This might be what they're undoing is if they don't have somebody as flexible as Alex and Vendetta in that second DPS slot, then the number of answers you can pull out are significantly reduced.
Yeah, it does require a little bit more focus coming through. For your composition, you have to really work with being flexible around those heroes. Certainly something that they are working towards, but now we're going to be seeing Vox and Nihili roll out here with the Ash Tracer.
Oh, Vendetta takes the full brunt of that TNT. Nice bit of ult charge there for Kukabao. Very quick at charging this ult. And now it's the Tracer 1v1 over in the stairs, and the recall is out already for both of them, and they disengage. They don't want to take that any further unless they absolutely have to. Now Vendetta still on the hunt, and back into that Tracer 1v1.
Yeah, overall, just some very slow fights coming through here, but Vox slowly working on rotating to the choke.
Yeah, Theomatic finds the first pick here. Fake Line's going to go down, takes a bit of a dink from the TNT as well. In a good position to maybe get that final blow onto Shikari, but can't quite locate it. Alex finds Kukabao on this one, and this is going to be the point looking to flip over very quickly here for Vox.
Yeah, and I like the way Vox played that. You take your time, you give yourselves the opportunities here. I misspokenly said that they're rotating towards the choke. I meant they're rotating to choke the opponents, kind of surround them like a constrictor. The words are difficult sometimes, Phil.
It's an easy mistake to make, Waltham. I wouldn't worry.
Yeah, when I start thinking about snakes, my mind goes all over the place. But with that being said now, we're looking at the snowball potential here. Certainly very there for the side of Vox. We're going to be seeing that whole hog come online. They have the Valk already online. Pulse Mine can get an early kill, but they're going to have to contest with a couple ultimates from the DPS on the other side.
This is looking very, very good for Vox. Even if they don't win this one fight here, they've still got 5 minutes, 20 seconds in the bank to make this work, and one assassination here can help them start off the snowball. But it's going to be Shikari that comes through first. Froki is still up and in this fight, so might be able to get the res off and keep them in. And we've got the equalizer pick. Nat gets brought back in, the Theomatic throws in the whole hog, secures the D-Mech onto Explorer with a little bit of help there from Vendetta. Explorer now down, and Vox nearly in a very good position here. Fake Line will have the nano boost, but has to back away. Doesn't really find too much with that, so doesn't even generate the whole hog. Will eventually get it in the final couple of seconds here and blast Theomatic away from the point. It's still not done yet for Morning Stars. Alex is able to get a couple on the back end, but Theomatic gets caught out at the back end of the fight and dealt with.
Yeah, the Morning Stars had a rough start there for the fight. They lost some members. Kukubao's Bob didn't really seem to do a whole lot of damage. It didn't provide the angles that you might have liked to see come out, but they're able to just keep that momentum. I mean, you know, we were talking about the respawns being too great on Hollywood. Same thing is striking true here, where the respawns are just so great for the Morning Stars. If you can't really punch them and aggressively and get onto the point with that capitalization, you're not going to make it happen. And Vox just couldn't get those kills fast enough, thanks to the things like the Bob spanning out point.
And it does mean that they threw a lot of ultimates at that. They're really only going to be having this Graviton Surge, which it's a nice ultimate, but ideally you want something to go with it. Did see the big hook there come through on Fake Line, but didn't really follow through and find any sort of pick onto Theomatic. Pulse Bomb out, and the support line saved there by the projected barrier from NKZ, but Froki up in the sky was sadly too juicy a target for Shikari, and they will be out of this fight. It's again the 5v6 here for Vox and Nihili on their way through. Self-destruct thrown in, thrown wide, won't find too much, and Samsung Morning Stars might just continue to hold here from now, even having lost Shikari, because Shikari is going to be back nice and quickly. Fake Lion's got the hook back off cooldown, and the second somebody enters his line of sight, he's likely to try and find the pick. That is so unfortunate for Theomatic. That looked really good for a second there, but the Pulse Bomb into the Graviton Surge from Vendetta is going to be what once more cracks this open for Vox Nihili. Fake Lion finds one with the whole hog, and Vendetta gets the work down onto Fake Lion, and now Vox Nihili may be finding the position to actually really make their mark on the point. Res somehow comes through here from Adnar, brings Shikari back in, so we may have been a little bit premature on that one, and we had the nano-boosted Mercy on the field, and we spectated almost none of it. A very rare occurrence. Would have loved to have seen a little bit more of it.
Yeah, there's a thing about this meta that I talk about with a lot of my casters. You never know how the fights are going to shake out until everybody's dead in the ground. Sometimes it looks really favorable, but a Roadhog will come in, or a Diva Matrix will lead everything, or in this case, a Zarya grab with a Tracer Pulse Mine will turn things around. It's so baffling here that we saw the recollection from Vox in a good way. I really liked the way Vox played that. They were able to maintain that composure and push ahead. Now I think we're going to be seeing a little bit more of a fundamental fight with less ultimates coming online.
It's really only going to be down to Vendetta here with a Pulse Bomb online in a couple of seconds. We'll be looking for an assassination, ideally onto a support, but of course, difficult to get into the back and actually find the supports to do the damage. There's the D-Make. Vendetta gets more than a support on that one. Gets Adnar, gets Kukabao. Akaya's going to go down here as well, and Alex takes Shikari out of the fight. Is this finally going to be it for Vox? Time and time and again, they've thrown themselves at the middle of this point and haven't been able to find the picks to keep it going. They finally got a tick and a half on the board. Bob is there to gatekeep people on their way through. 2 ticks and counting, and it's now down for the rest of Morningstar to try and tag in to keep this going that little bit longer, but momentum is on Vox Nihili's side. They've got ults, they've got the nano boost, they've got the whole hog, they've got the point firmly, deeply in their grasp. Theomatic with the hook onto the Bob to stop him contesting the point. Certainly helps out a little bit here, and we're at 96% contested with just less than a minute to go on the point, and Vox Nihili are digging deep, and they find the way to stop the respawns coming through and finally cap the points.
That was it felt very long in reality. Probably like a minute and a half maybe if you're being generous, but early on, what set that fight up so well for Vox was the fact that it was those tank duels that were going on in the Mega Room, but really there wasn't a whole lot helping out the Morning Stars in that. It was just Fake Lion and Explorer pretty much on their own, trying to deal with Theomatic, NKZ, and I think at some point Vendetta coming in on the Tracer, it may have been Alex, coming in on that Tracer, and it just proved that those tanks are not quite at a comparable level, especially when you're trying to 2v6. It was looking a little bit shaky, but they managed to shake that tree until eventually some fruit fell.
Yeah, it did take them a long time, though, especially when you consider how quick they were to cap point A. We just watched Morningstars burn nearly 4 minutes off the clock on the point B defense, and I guess that's almost to be expected for a map like Volskaya. It is so defensively favored that unless you can come in and secure a wipe and then fight off the recontest as it comes through, it's very difficult to even cap. And we saw Vox take, 4 different attempts to break that, and almost getting it 4 different times. So a very good showing on the defense here from Morningstars. Let's see if they can recreate some of that success here on their offensive round.
That's certainly going to be the goal. We're seeing Vendetta on this Widowmaker. We talked about Widowmaker occasionally coming out on the Volskaya. This seems to be that one instance, and I think putting Vendetta, based off what we've seen on Junkertown, a reliable source of damage if they're able to find those angles. But it's really going to be on the rotations as well, coming through from the side of Morningstar.
Yeah, the double hit scan look has been pretty good for Vox Nihili. They won't have quite such long sightlines here. They're a little more easily challenged. But Alex is able to pile in quite a lot of damage there, and Theomatic finds Adnar straight away. 1 player advantage here for Vox. And Froki now down as well, so a mirror match there in terms of who's out, and a very tradey fight here, Waltham. Nobody really cementing this properly. Alex down to 3 HP, and then to 0 as Explorer gets the run down, but again, it's trade for trade for trade, and eventually it comes up favoring Vox.
Yeah, and Volskaya is not one of those maps where we see a huge difference in those respawn points, especially if you're on the side of Vox. You have 3 members already on that point, so you're not going to be too worried about running it back really quick. You know that any filter coming in is going to take time to regroup from the side of Morning Stars, and they do get regrouped, and they're starting to take a wide angle, it seems.
Yeah, it seems like a sensible decision here, and there's that old Kookaburra magic. Finds the opening pick onto Alex. Fake Lion finds the pick and the D-Mech. Theomatic now down as well, and Morning Stars are looking to come through here with the cap on A. It's not quite as speedy as what we saw from Morning Stars, but results are results.
Yeah, certainly. Any port in a storm, as I like to say, and now Morning Stars are going to have the opportunity here to kind of carry it forward with quite a bit of momentum. We are going to be seeing about 5 of those glowing check marks come on the line for them. They're going to have to deal with quite a bit of resistance on the opposition's end, though. I mean, not to understate the amount of ultimates that are going to be coming on the line for Vox. They pretty much have a bank of their own.
Oh, Fake Lion taking a nap in the Mega Health Pack room on the right-hand side there. Will get woken up and is now in a position to start buying some space for the team. Has the whole hog, has the hook, has the take a breather. It's a nice position with the self-destruct, but a little bit wide. Out comes the Bob, out comes the whole hog, and you believe a Fake Lion can fly right the way down into the back line. There's the D-Mech onto NKZ. There's the hook and the kill combo. NKZ and Alex both down, but Froki raises Alex back into the fight. What was looking very good here for Morning Stars is suddenly turning in favor of Vox and Nihili as they manage to rack up the points in their favor on the defense.
And now we're seeing Vendetta perform to a pretty strong degree here. I like the way Vendetta's playing, knowing that the tanks kind of have to stay on that point. I mean, they can just stay in the high ground area and allow these pickoffs to come from that elevated angle. It's something you see more on things like Gibraltar third point, where you have those long sight lines you can play with, but still just any off angle that the Widow can play with where she can't immediately be contested makes her incredibly strong.
Morning Stars did manage to get 1 tick on the board in that last fight, though, Waltham. But look at what it cost them to make that happen. They've now only got the pulse bomb. They're going to have to take an eco push, a couple of dry fights here to be in a position to actually win out the map.
They certainly are, and Vendetta soon to have them locked down in that position. Or just putting Kookaburra in the grave.
Yeah, that's a good way to get this started. Froki should have the res available. Sorry, Adnar should have the res available even, and will use that to bring Kookaburra back in. But now they've got to play careful here with the sight lines, and Fake Lion failing to even follow that particular guideline, falling to Theomatic. Kookaburra finds Vendetta here, but that was the shortest range hook I have ever seen in my life. I'm amazed that follow-through didn't come in. Froki brings Vendetta back in as Alex finds Kookaburra. We've got ults committed here as we see the nano boost come through onto Shikari. Will help him generate that last few ticks of ult charge and secure the pulse bomb. But it's not going to be enough. Again, too many of Morning Stars are down and out of the fight.
Yeah, we knew that this was going to have to be an eco push. I don't necessarily like that Akaya invested that nano boost, knowing that basically you're going to be waiting for your next push to really utilize all the ults you've built up. Sure, you can say like it, pulled out the Valk, it pulled out the whole hog. A valid point, but still looking at 6 and still potentially having the opportunity to pull those out. It's just the power of hindsight. Although we are looking that they're going to have to be, making it within 1 or 2 pushes if they want to keep a similar time bank with their opponents here.
Yeah, now at the 2-minute mark, that marks 2 good fights for them, and Kookaburra just gets deleted in the middle of the hook. Res comes through and brings them back in, so they have a momentary advantage, and Fake Lion finds Theomatic, has the whole hog, throws in the damage in over the top, but Alex's Bob is there to put aid to him. An Explorer has to divert his attention to try and support his teammates, and takes a lot of flack from the Bob in the meantime. They've got some positioning on the point. Self-destruct comes out, but it won't find any picks. And in the meantime, Theomatic comes back in on the Wrecking Ball to set up the spin cycle. Alex has this high ground vantage at the back of the point, tracks down Explorer, and that's another 40 seconds gone off the time bank for Morning Stars on their offense.
Yeah, and I'm loving how Vox are playing this. They're just holding that point. They're getting the tanks that they know can stay there and keep their DPS doing things that really force you to look away from point. Or at least if you don't look at them, you're getting severely punished. We've seen Vendetta on the Tracer, playing so many different angles when it comes to those dashes. However, as we look ahead, we're going to be seeing the Valve, we're going to be seeing the Bob come in from the defense. So a strong opportunity here for Samsung to get once again stuffed on this attack.
Kookaburra looking really good there, landed a couple of headshots through onto Alex. And very heavily telegraphed where he was going to be coming from then, and receives the TNT for his trouble, securing Alex the Bob in this next fight. An unconventional pick here, the Nano Boost coming through onto Fake Lion on the Wrecking Ball, allows him to get the run over on Vendetta, who will get res. Self-destruct in over the top, and it finds Kookaburra. Adnar's down, Explorer's down, and with 22 seconds left to go on the clock, it's going to be one last long, scrappy engage from Morningstars to keep themselves in this.
Yeah, not only did Vox hold that to 10 seconds left, they pushed back so far that now there's going to be a really long runtime for the side of the Morningstars. Can anybody even make it is the question. Fake Lion trying their best. Will eventually.
Will just get the tag in time, but Explorer gets demexed on the way through. Fake Lion is now there to try and set the spin cycle going for Morningstars, but we're into overtime here. This is looking very, very difficult now for Morningstars. They have got a couple of picks, NKC and Nat both down. Froki brings Nat back into the fight, but they finally got sufficient numbers advantage here that they have perpetually this damage advantage. And because we saw them cap in less than a minute for Vox Nihili, we will see another round here on Volskaya for both of our teams.
Yeah, so by their teeth, once again, this time I guess on the other side of the field, are the Samsung Morningstars. They're able to just get that early advantage, and blink and you'll miss it. That was some pretty quick play that they had to do. Like, the last minute touches are always a questionable thing for these teams, but to see a team like the Morningstars come out tells me that they haven't given up, tells me that they're still resilient, and they're going to get an opportunity here, but at almost half the time bank of their opponents.
And I think that's broadly representative of what the difference was in cap time for both Vox and Morningstars on point A. I guess it's maybe a little obvious to say that the time they've got left is representative of how long it took them to get the cap. But what I mean is that 52-second difference is just about what it took for Vox Nihili to cap where Morningstars didn't, or vice versa. And so we could see a shutout here, certainly for the team with only 1 minute on their offense.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get that one tick. It basically ensures you have one fight, maybe two, if you're taking it very expeditiously. But given the way these fights have been going, it's probably just going to be the one. So you have to aim strong if you're on the side of the Morningstars to even get any progress here as these gates do open up. It looks pretty close to a mirror composition. Exactly a mirror composition.
Yeah, it's kind of become bread and butter for both of these teams now. Let's see if it can work out here for Morningstars. They're going to be looking for a big entry pick. They're going to be relying on Fake Lion to find something, anything of value here. Now knows roughly where the Mercy is, dodges the TNT, really wants a squishy target here. The Mercy would be such a tasty morsel to get the pick off here. Deny the res. Will instead find the Diva, gets hooked out of any follow-up damage and has to momentarily retreat. Did manage to get a lot of damage through there onto Thematic, but Thematic is coming out ahead in terms of ult charge. Kubar takes the high ground position, almost gets the work down, and actually gets the displacement kill with the coach gun. You can't res that one. It's a player advantage here. But with Thematic throwing in the whole hog and Froki bringing Nat back in, and as we're approaching overtime, Morningstars, the mountain they've got to climb suddenly becomes a massive cliff wall in their face, and it's a shutout on point A.
And that's so unfortunate. Fake Lion right on that corner of the point. Surely thought that they were on it with that whole hog, knocking everybody back, making their way even further in. It just wasn't enough. That is a painful way to go out if they end up losing Volskaya here, but basically the best they can hope for is a perfect hold for 2 minutes. And now we've reached that break point where there's going to be multiple pushes coming in for the side of Vox. They're going to have multiple attempts at this. So even if they just focus on building ults in those first fights to use them moving on, it's still going to help them out quite a bit. As we look ahead, though, interesting to see we didn't see Vendetta on that Widowmaker to start, but it ended up paying out for them in the long run.
I guess the advantage of running the Tracer over the Widowmaker is you are substantially less vulnerable. To play the Widowmaker, you've got to be fairly static and rotate when your grapple is off cooldown. if you're a Tracer, you're just this annoying mosquito all over the point, just drawing out resources, drawing out focus, drawing out attention, and making it that much harder for the offense to get anything done around that. So I kind of see the value of that over the Widowmaker.
Yeah, certainly have to agree. The Widowmaker also just kind of provides a precedent, we can't look down these long alleyways because once the Widowmaker's been established, it's a threat eternally. But now as these gates are opening up, it's going to be the mirror matchup once again. It's a little surprise at this point.
No, I think given the level of success we've seen for both of these teams running this and that we've sort of settled into a groove here, I would be very surprised by any changes. Again, going to be looking for that big entry frag, and that was a dangerous play there by Shikari. And that was a massive anti-nade from Nat. Adna down, Shikari down, and Vox Nihili. It would take a miracle at this point for them to not be capping this one single solitary tick. In fact, he did just catch NKZ there with a little shake of the head onto the DMEX Explorer.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about that. Morningstars, they got a little too far ahead of themselves. The Roadhog got caught out, hit with an anti-nade, and yeah, you can take the damage reduction, but you can only run away so fast with your little piggy trotters. Not going to quite be enough. You get capitalized, and then from there on out, it's a snowball, especially when you lose your powerhouse like that Roadhog.
Yeah, very unfortunate. And almost all of that on the back of a massive anti-nade from that, and you cannot overstate the value of an Ana in a meta where there is so much Roadhog, because pretty much everything she does shuts down a Roadhog or empowers his counter. So you've really got to keep your head on a swivel if you're playing the pig for any old ladies in the blue coats.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, it's not just the anti-nade, right? It's the sleep. You get a big long-range hook. You're finally happy to feast upon, the opposing support or a DPS, and you just end up taking a nap. You don't know what happened. You woke up feeling a lot more refreshed, but all of a sudden you have 5 members enemy team on you. You have to kind of consider those interactions, and it's that kind of tuning that I feel like we've kind of lost from the Morningstars. We had it, I feel, very strongly in the first 2 maps, but now either Vox have changed up their style to where they've been a little bit more unpredictable, or they have just kind of worn on the Morningstars enough to where they have sleep in the eyes.
Yeah, it's difficult to say without actually talking to the players themselves to learn what that's going to be, like what the reasoning behind the performance, the change of the performance is. And hopefully we'll actually get to talk to one of these teams, SMS or Vox Nihili, after our final map. We've got one more map coming this way. Impossible to draw this one, despite the fact that Avoided have been desperately searching for the science to bring that into reality. We're going to be going over to Nepal for what is effectively our tiebreaker map. We are at 2 maps apiece between Morningstars and Vox Nihili. The winner of this will take the W in the series, but we are still out of contention here for Samsung Morningstars to be making their return back into trials.
Yeah, but still, the pride coming in, we got to talk about what's on the line here, and it's going to be at least that 1-0, or in the case of Vox, that 2-3 coming in. It's always nice to end a season, to end a week, to end a block on that win, and on a little bit of an up note. You're going to certainly be feeling a little bit more confident if you're the Morningstars coming into Open Division once again on that win.
And just a small update outside of this match. We have had word that both Sheer Cold and Obey Alliance won their matches today, securing their position in Contenders September. So a big congratulations to both of those teams. Remains to be seen who is going to be making... Well, in fact, no, it doesn't even remain to be seen. That is now the Contenders bracket, the Contenders Trials bracket, more or less sorted out here. But as you say, still just playing for that pride win here, potentially, for Samsung Morningstars to avoid finishing with nothing on the scoreline. Yeah,
but now as we look ahead, Nepal, no way to tie this, no opportunity for a 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, whatever. We're going to be looking at this control map going ahead. And initially, we saw Samsung Morningstars looking very strong on that control map, but we saw them kind of favoring that soldier before. I wonder if they're going to do that once again on the control map, and if they do, how it plays here. I think it leaves them a little bit vulnerable, especially when I think of some specific maps, Village and Shrine. It can be harder to maneuver around those walls, not have as long sightlines as you might be comfortable with on that soldier.
It genuinely would not surprise me to see Shikari come out on the soldier, just because that's kind of the look we saw for him on Busan. Like, I don't think we actually saw him swap off the soldier for the entirety of the first control map, and it feels very much to me like this is the character I play when I play control maps pick from Shikari. Obviously, got a bit of a development over the course of the series, and maybe we see that swap out here, but genuinely would not be surprised to see it coming back out.
And initially, we're going to be seeing that Symmetra come out. At least that's what they're queuing up so far. Not a big surprise. Oftentimes, we'll see the Sim come out on a teleporter, especially if they switch to a faster hero. Most notably, the Reaper. But, you know, Soldier has a sprint that he can catch up to the rest of his team with. So, certainly not out of the question. If you look at the other end, however, Alex on the Sombra, Vendetta on the Tracer as well. I did like the Sombra play we saw a little bit of on Busan. So, definitely some potential there.
And the other big wrinkle here is that Thematic is not opting for the Roadhog, instead coming back in on the Winston, picking up a variation of that runaway dive for the Winston Zarya. Dive comes in, nice timing, won't put the bubble just yet, knows there's nobody to really block the damage through from. Big hook comes in, NKZ takes a lot of damage on the way in, will get healed back up, and it's a 1-for-1 trade. Explorer traded out for Alex here, but as Vendetta capitalizes and takes Shikari out of the fight, and NKZ rotates to take this high ground position and continue to threaten out Morningstars as they come through. This could be exactly where we see the flip come through initially for Vox.
Yeah, and it looked like Hukabao was just a little too far out, couldn't quite rotate, so it was really kind of a 4v6 in favor of the side of the Vox coming in. But right now, an aggressive recontest coming in from Samsung.
Yeah, Shikari back on his comfort pick here with the Soldier, and immediately back into Spawn on his comfort pick of the Soldier. NKZ with the high charge, putting paid to that one. Nice big hook comes through from Fake Lion, but an even Icy Bubble interrupts the majority of that. Here's the nano boost onto Fake Lion, who has come alive at the back end of this team fight. Gets the kill with the hook, and that's only 5 damage coming through from that one. Just needs to get the work over onto the pesky Lucio. Finds the kill, and that's looking to be the flip here for Morningstars.
Yeah, and the Morningstars are in a very peculiar spot of winning not because of Shikari, but kind of in spite. Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, we saw that Soldier die right out of the gate. He talks being sent right back into Spawn. So now that maybe that Soldier can get set up, has that defensive positioning, we can see them work a little bit more favorably. I think we're going to need to see some shape up, though, because they can't just win that on Fake Lion getting those kills every time.
Oh, that's an EMP and a half. 4 people caught in that one, and I popped my jaw shouting about it. Vendetta finds one with a pulse bomb. It's a Kea down, Explorer down as well. This EMP has cracked this point right the way open. Vox Nihili swing back in style and knock the Morningstars right back into Spawn.
Yeah, Morningstars not quite able to hold as I was hopeful for, and I mean, that EMP from Alex, absolutely big coming in, but leaves not a lot of ultimates on the table for the Vox squad. We're looking at the Grav coming online for their opponents in the Morningstars. We'll see if they can get a big value for it.
Well, aggressive positioning now coming through from Vox. They've not got quite the ultimates to play with just yet. They're trying to make this happen with just the primary fire. Theomatic finds the opening pick. Hukabao is down as NKZ retreats to the safety of his team to keep himself alive and ready to go in the fight. We've got the Nano Boosted Tactical Visor, and it comes through like a broom, sweeping up the remnants of the dust of Vox Nihili. Takes out 2-1 with the Helix Rocket, and we are looking again at the flip here for Morningstars. However, Vox Nihili are still keeping this in contestation, and they drag this almost all the way to 90%.
Yeah. Interesting, because it feels like Shikari a lot of times on the Soldier does play for that Tac Visor, plays for that ultimate ability that we see now being paired with that Nano boost. It's not the worst ultimate combination, but you have to wonder if those resources can be allocated a little bit more effectively. But as we look ahead, Alex, once again with that EMP, if they can land another big one, this might be it for the side of the Vox Nihili squad.
And the thing is, because Morningstars are playing in such a grouped up fashion, we're going to see value come out yet again from the EMP. Hits 5, takes the Explorer off the table, who had the Graviton Surge ready to go. It was a big fight-winning ultimate, and Alex just shut it down completely. Vox Nihili back in with the flip, and it's cleanup time. Akaya down. We're going to hit 99% here, and it's not looking likely for a cap for the Morningstars.
It's not looking likely at all, not even a contest.
No, that's unfortunate. Really, really great timing from Alex with the EMP. And Morningstars, the composition they're playing means they have to stand kind of shoulder to shoulder in this one, and that puts them all in range of the EMP.
It really does a huge threat there. You kind of don't want to split off your tank line given how brawly they can be, but Alex is just going to continue to pick you apart, as you said in that instance. But now as we move forward, Theomatic and NKZ looking like they're on the Winston ball now. So a very dive look coming through from them. I'm curious to see how they're going to operate it here, because dive can be a little bit risky on Shrine if you get caught out, or Sanctum if you get caught out.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of options here for like environmental kills or environmental abilities to punish the dive as it comes through, whether that's a shield bash, a whip shot, a sleep, whatever, just to interrupt it. Makes it very difficult to do, and of course, the sight lines aren't long, the pathing is predictable. Speaking of pathing, here's the rotation from Vox Nihili over the top around that outer edge, but Theomatic jumps in, receives the hook, and Explorer with a high charge takes him out of the fight. Fake Lion on the hunt for another pick here, misses the hook, and now has to try and survive through NKZ's charge. Won't manage it, but Explorer is there to punish NKZ, and it's looking like Morningstars are going to get the first tick.
Yeah, and Vox have to be very careful. They now no longer have an Ana to punish Fake Lion as aggressively as we've seen in the past, meaning any hooks landing, any are going to be uninterrupted by sleeps. Any breathers going to be unaffected by those anti-nades. So you're going to have to be very considerate of those abilities, even more so than they were before.
Yeah, this is nice positioning from Explorer, just trying to control this entry choke. We'll see the pulse bomb come through and not find too much, and that's a support trade there. Akaya and Froki both down. Kookaburra's now playing the Tracer, which is not a thing we've seen a huge amount of him play so far today, but he's already finding value with it. And on the back of a couple of picks here, Morningstars just sweep their way back onto the point and deal with Vox Nihili, maintaining their control of the point.
Absolutely. Now as we look ahead, we do see many ultimates coming online for the defending Samsung Morningstars. I say defending in the contextual sense, but with that, they're going to have to go up against the EMP, against the Coalescence. EMP is not going to affect Shikari, but it certainly might affect Fake Lion, perhaps the most here, but it only gets 2.
Well, actually, it's 3. Adnar gets hit by that as well, but so far there have been no kills on the back of it, in large part because Adnar had the rally going. Explorer throws in the Gravitic Surge, and the cleanup comes through. So far, Vox Nihili with nary a sign of setting a foot on the point.
Yeah, at Samsung Morningstars, we can just feel the aggression coming through on them. I mean, we've seen them poke through that choke, perhaps one of the more unsafe areas multiple times. They still have these ultimates, so they're still feeling pretty cocksure about themselves. Shikari and Akaya both have that Nano Visor combination that we've seen them lean on in the past map.
Well, it's time for the Shikari special, the Nano Boosted Tactical Visor. And Vox Nihili quite wisely, for the most part, make themselves scarce on that one. Froki has the sound barrier, has to use it now. They need to start throwing everything at this to get the map back in their control. And that might be what does it for them. The sound barrier brought them the space to go crazy, to go confident, to get picks, and to start to flip the point back in their favor. There's the flip. Theomatic back and healthy at full health. And good luck surviving that one, Shikari. He does! He dodges the hook, he receives the projected barrier, and Theomatic's the one that gets punished.
Yeah, get Theomatic some shoe inserts, because they had their ankles broken on that one. They just were not able to lock down Shikari. But as we look towards this next fight, it's going to be looking pretty dry on ultimates. If Samsung Morningstars can just mechanical this, they might be optimistic.
But you don't want to be pushing into Theomatic with the whole hog here, because he can just knock you all back into the pick on this one. But Shikari gets an opening frag. Fake Lion finds the second as NKZ goes down. Explorer standing stock, still not wanting to spread the damage of the pulse bomb any further, will fall. But Kookaburra is there for cleanup, and it's at 99-33. If the flip comes through here for Morningstars, we're not looking good for a full recontest here for Vox, and we're going to go to 1-1 on the poll. Nat throws in the Coalescence from as much range as can be managed. It isn't enough to keep NKZ alive, and now Adnar has the rally, and that is it, 1-1. Waltham, this game could not be much closer.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a nail biter. I'm glad I clipped mine just a few days ago. Otherwise, I'd be picking up some bad habits once again. But 1-1 here now between the Morningstars and the Vox team. It's looking competitive, and I love seeing that the last one is going to be that Shrine map. big options here. I think that the team that leans into the Roadhog here a little bit more might come out successful. And so far, based off of just the compositions, Morning Stars are looking good for that.
Yeah, they really are. We are going to be seeing Kookabout starting off on the Symmetra pick, which means that not only are they going to have the Roadhog advantage, the Roadhog is going to be there to control that choke at the top of the stairs well before the rest of the dive can come through. It means that Alex has a lot to do here to get an opening hack and start generating this EMP. Actually, with the dive speed available there from Froakie, they do get to the point first, and it means that Fake Lion can't really get set up.
Not going to be looking for the setup, but certainly those opening picks as the hack comes through onto Akaya.
No kills coming through just yet, but the recall already burnt now by Vendetta means he can't really stay as long in these fights as he might like to. It's a 1-for-1 trade, and NKZ gets the second. Froakie did a lot to bring the team to the point and help them secure this opening cap, but it's not been enough to help the team survive through this, as Morning Stars get kill after kill after kill and look to potentially get the flip.
Yeah, in fact, the flip is going to be attempting to come through here, not quite. Vox Nihili managed to hold for a moment, but the Morning Stars continue to pick up these kills.
To be honest, if you're Vox Nihili here, though, you're happy just to get that little bit more ult control on the board for basically nothing. You've generated some ults, you've burnt some resource, so GG, go next fight.
Yeah, Theomatic's still going to be sticking onto this Winston. It seems that's a pretty risky gambit if you're asking me. NKZ going to be going into the D.Va. I like that. It gives you the opportunity for Matrix, a lot of that whole hog damage, as well as obviously those big hooks. Chicory, though, very close to attack Visor. Akaya lagging a little bit behind, but Yana's able to build that up so instantly.
Oh, that's unfortunate. There's the 1-for-1 trade. Theomatic gets run down by the whole hog here. Shikari's going to throw in the tactical Visor, but it looked to me like that fight was already won for them. I don't really think they needed that.
Yeah, certainly a little bit questionable there. Now going to be leaving the side of the Morning Stars with pretty much just 3 ultimates versus what is looking a pretty full side from their opponents in box. I mean, Alex going to be having that EMP alone. We've seen it destroy this team.
It has been pretty good so far, and again, they're playing in a way that groups them all up nicely. It's maybe not quite so big as the last one, but it hits 3, and there are 2 kills that come through on the back of it. Froakie throws in the sound barrier as well here and keeps them alive through it, so we will see the cap, but it's been very expensive for Vox.
Yeah, and in that instance, Alex hitting only 3 was very advantageous for their team. Explorer kind of panicking a little bit, seemed to have dropped the grab after the dive. It came through after the EMP came through. Locks down a bunch of people, but the follow-through is just not there because they already lost those members. So an ultimate drained out from Alex, or by Alex, just by the EMP usage alone. Excellent, I like to see that.
Now the only ult available for Vox Nihili will be the Pulse Bomb. He's away into the back, throws it in, won't find the pick. A little bit of splash damage is all he's going to have to show for that. Shikari now has the high ground, and the Tactical Visor won't have the nano boost, but will find the pick onto NKZ, securing a numbers advantage for Morning Stars, who are not back in control of the point just yet. They've got to get a couple more kills to really cement that as a possibility for their future. Fake Lion looking to try and get a hook here onto Froakie, one of the more difficult targets to pin down. That's going to be Vendetta down and another flip. This might come down to 99.99 the way these flips have been coming through, Waltham.
It certainly is. If Samsung can hold this fight, they're going to be looking good. But as we talk about, pretty much in between every fight, a lot of ultimates on the board, especially for their opponents. Pretty much everybody but Theomatic going to be fairly close. Vendetta at 70%. I'd still say you can build it up pretty rapidly, but Kookabout not looking for that early pulse, perhaps.
Oh, couldn't quite line up the kill there onto Alex. Means Alex is going to survive through this with the EMP, and it's been a fight winner time after time after time. Self-destruct in combos with the EMP, finds Explorer, and that's a nice push back. There's 99 on the board now for Morning Stars, and Vox Nihili looking good to get the retake. Here's my prediction of the 99.99 coming through.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like it's going to be pretty much that 99 meter, and a fairly even fight. Once again, those ultimates leaning a little bit more towards the side of Samsung Morning Stars, especially considering, you know, Alex does not have that EMP. They just used it last fight, but I know the positioning from Vox are trying to do a lot of scouting, and we see Theomatic trying to really get up in the face of that team before they even make it out.
Ooh, Froki's going to use that early, but Vendetta gets the picks with the pulses. That's 2 down, that's 3 down. It's 90, 90, 99, and the kills are here in spades for Vox Nihili. Morningstars, they've come so far, they've tried so hard, and in the end, it has not mattered one jot. It comes down to the wire, and Vox Nihili will take the win in the final day of Contenders Trials.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit silly here, if I'm being honest, Phil. I said that the team that played the Hog was likely to come out victorious, but apparently it was the team that played the Sombra, because Alex set up a lot of fights historically with these EMPs that just enabled so much fight win to come through. Overall, I'm absolutely pleased with what we saw from both of these teams. And as you mentioned a little bit earlier in our cast, we're going to be getting a little bit of a few words from what I'm understanding with some of these, one of the members of this team.
Yeah, I'd like to keep it to one member from the team. I think any more than that, it starts to get a little bit chaotic, particularly as they start to play off one another. But you've really got to feel for Morningstars because they've just been reverse swept here. They were so close to getting that victory on the board. And then Vox Nihili just find a little more gas in the tank. They turn up the volume, they crank up the speed, and they're able to get the win at the back end of the fight. It's really, really sad for Morningstars, who were showing real signs of improvement towards the end of this week. It does mean they are going to be going back down into Open Division, where they're more than likely to make it back up into Trials. They keep bouncing back and forth between these two echelons, not quite able to make that final leap back up into Contenders.
Yeah, it's always a little bit sad to see it, but new life must beget old, so you got to have that ebb and flow as we get, new talent in here. Morningstars get to show, why we shouldn't forget about them back in Open Division. So overall, very excited to see how both these teams, honestly, both Vox and the Morningstars, proceed from here on out.
Well, it looks like we have just about got our interviewee lined up, and I do believe we're going to be talking to Thematic from Vox Nihili, the tank player for the team. So we'll just wait on them getting into the lobby, and we'll have a chat with them and figure out what they thought about that match and what the future looks like for going forward. So Thematic, congratulations on your victory. How are you feeling?
Thank you. Absolutely elated. What a series.
It was very, very close. I mean, we were looking, and not to mince words, the two teams here, yourselves and Morningstars, down at the bottom end of the bracket, we were looking at this one to be a close, highly contested fight, and it nearly went the other way. Morningstars getting 2 on the board. When you hit that round 3, what was going through your head?
We just knew we had to do something different than we tackled it, right? So I think the reason we lost those first 2 maps, we were a bit too stubborn. I just wanted to, have a simple game, just play my Winston, do some primals, but they go ahead and put their main tank on Roadhog like a bunch of rodents, if I'll be honest. So we just got down to their level and beat them with skill.
That's certainly one way of putting it. So obviously this means that you have secured another season up in Contenders Trials. What's your game plan between now and the rest of Trials to mean that next time through you make it back up into Contenders?
I think it's just the grind. Obviously not just playing together, but focusing on just being repetitive and getting our default straight, getting executions correct, getting synergy, like oiled, clean, perfectly tight, everything. We just need to do that. For now, I've been with the team for 2 metas so far. And by the end of them, I think we've achieved like a great thing, right? So we're looking forward to just doing that for every upcoming meta, every iteration of every upcoming meta, and just do our best in staying solid, staying consistent.
That's quite the comprehensive answer. Thank you. Waltham, anything to add?
Yeah, I want to take it back to those games, if you don't mind, that we just saw, Theo. I'm going to call you Theo. I apologize if that's...
Of course.
So, Theo, you were talking about how, your opponents went hog, and that was kind of a bummer for your team, so you guys needed to shape it up a little bit here. But when we saw that last control map on Nepal, you guys went back to that Winston style. Was that just because you guys believed you had mentally boomed the opposing teams, or what was the thought process behind that?
We had just eliminated all other possible outcomes. Those were the comps that were the perfect for those maps, those rounds. To be honest, it was not smart of them to be running that hog on the shrine. It was over as soon as they picked hog.
Wow.
Okay, and I guess in a similar regards, the last question I have for you is, That Sombra, is that a specific set strategy you guys have just for those control point maps? Because it felt like that was a very unique strategy for that map type.
So definitely our brawl sort of comp with the Sombra Tracer, harassing the Monkey Diva or Monkey Zarya, and then the more Lucio, sticking together, then collapsing as a big ball, sort of a death ball dive type. That is good for control most of the time because it is often pretty brawly. There are some nice lanes you can use, but we try to run it wherever we can. Of course, today we hit a roadblock, mostly because some of the map types were not favoring us. A lot of long sight lines, which meant that their hog got a lot of value, and their hog could place better for their snipers, which got the real value. So that's why we struggled. But mostly we look to use that Sombra. It's a really important part of our composition, and Alex plays it phenomenally. We really abuse him to the fullest, and he helps us out so much.
Yeah, it was a really impressive performance from Alex, and in fact from the entire team. But Theo, unfortunately, we do have another match to get to, so we're going to have to say goodbye to you. Before we let you go, anything you'd like to say, anybody you'd like to shout out at the end of the broadcast?
Shout out to my team for being absolute nutcases. That was a madhouse at the end of that last fight. I guess shout out to the enemy team for being dishonest. It was their downfall.
Okay, well, Theo, I like that you're calling it how you see it. Thank you very much for joining us. Go and enjoy the victory with the rest of your team.
Thank you.
For those of you still on board and watching, we are going to throw to a very short break while we get our next team into lobby and ready to go. But please don't go too far because we are going to be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Here we are with one of the last of today's games, and in fact, the last of this season of Contenders Trials games. It's down to Shoes Money Crew versus Vasta Gaming. I'm Big Hungry Phil, and still with me is Waltham. Waltham, what have we got to look forward to?
Well, as you said, Shoes Money Crew versus Vasta Gaming. These teams are going to be fighting for a little bit of clarity, I believe, if I recall correctly, even though we just talked about it, Phil. Bad memory here.
Yeah.
It's going to be Shoes Money Crew fighting for position here. They need to get this in a 3-0, 3-1.
I have had an update, actually. I know Fees, one of the HitScan players on Shoes Money Crew, relatively well, and he has just informed me that, according to his maths, and when I say just informed me, I mean like it came through 30 seconds ago, if they win one map, that's it. They've qualified for Contenders here, according to his maths.
Well, definitely going to be looking to get the one map over on Vasta. And if you're a man or woman of stats, as I like to try to allow myself to be, it's an easy crutch to lean on, you got to say that Shoes Money Crew is certainly within that realm. Vasta at a 1-3 win-loss rate, Shoes Money Crew kind of the inverse of that, 3-1. So overall, things looking up for the Money Squad here.
That's right. And when you look at the run they've had through the group, they have already played their most difficult match. They actually did that on the first day, playing Young and Beautiful, who they're currently tied with. And they took that to a 3-2. So it's not like they were stomped by Young and Beautiful with their ridiculous new tank roster. So these guys are now like really in contention for being one of the best teams in this Trials season. So lucky for them, they're going to be all being well, unless we see something massive cut out from Vasta here, moving back up into Contenders.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that hope, that potential. But as we look ahead, the maps just came up a moment ago, I believe. We're going to be seeing, if you're with us for our first game with Vox Nihili versus Morning Stars, maps that's going to be looking incredibly similar. Busan, Hollywood, Junkertown, and if necessary, Volskaya, Nepal, and maybe Ilios if it gets to that.
Maybe. And we're going to be starting here on downtown as well for Busan. And I'm expecting we're going to see kind of a couple of variations around what we've already seen today. It seems to be either you're running the dive or a variant of the dive, or you're running the Roadhog. And given what we've currently got locked in here, looks like Shoes Money Crew favoring the dive.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? There's a lot of open space on the downtown area, a lot of areas for those Winston to leap from and to. As well, I'm just very optimistic about the Sombra now after our last game. So Fees definitely has some potential to show here, but Maimone might throw a little gear in that with the Torbjorn.
Yeah, this is interesting. I was not expecting this out from Vasta at all. And when Maimone closes the distance with the overload, finds the combo with the flashbang, and takes Hades out of the fight. This is an early advantage for Vasta. I think Shoes Money Crew have been blindsided by this rush comp with the Torb.
Yeah, but when it comes to the blind side, the question becomes, yeah, you'll get the point rather easily, but can you hold it? That Torb's going to be in a very advantageous spot, that turret acting like the 7th man that can pull so much more direction here, but a big dive coming in from Hades.
Yeah, this is going to be a nice initiation, but he will receive the stun, takes a lot of damage in during that stun, and falls out of the fight, and that's Hades down first off in the exchange again. At the very least here for Shoes Money Crew, it was a quick fight.
Yeah, Shoes Money Crew not going to be hurting too much just yet. It was only the first 2 fights, even though it was quick enough to feel like one. But we look ahead, both Moira's going to be having that coalescence on the line. The High Noon coming in from Cage as well. Can help zone things out, slow this down a little bit more. But also, the Ryan Zarya, we haven't talked about it a whole lot. It's actually coming out for the first time today between you and I, Phil. And it prefers that slow play style.
We'll see ults now coming through, and the slow play style suddenly not working out that well for Rocket, but Kage is able to find the double here with the High Noon, which is unusual and surprising value for this particular ultimate. EMP comes through, hits 4, but there's been no follow-through just yet. Kage is able to dodge out of the way of the minefield, and this has seen a big investment for Shoes Money Crew, and Vasta are the ones that are coming out on top.
Yeah, that was a excellent play. Cage coming out real strong there with that double high, or the double kill from the Deadeye. You mentioned it, you can't ask for much more than that. Oftentimes, the High Noon just feels like a kill button, or at the best, a quick reload button.
It's often one of the noisiest suicide buttons in the game, sadly. Still finding great value with it on this one. We'll have a swap now coming through. Shoes Money Crew now running the Ashe and the Zarya here. Hades about to close in on the Primal Rage as well, but may want to wait out this Molten Core because he's done a very good job here, Moment, of stuffing up the entry to the choke.
Yeah, and this Torbjorn being incredibly oppressive is just what you expect from the Swedish engineer himself, but Earth's trying to initiate doesn't seem to find a whole lot.
No, doesn't find too much, but Karga's about to find Kumba and Rocket. We're going to pretend we didn't see that charge, my friend, covering a fraction of a centimeter on that one. Kage is doing so much damage here. He will eventually get run down, but it's at 99-0, and Shoes Money Crew have just not really been in this fight in a meaningful way at all.
And they really haven't. They don't seem like it seems like they haven't played against the Reinhardt in so long. They're a little bit confused as to how to do it, and that can apply to most of the characters on this team. I mean, we're seeing Torbjorn we weren't expecting. We're seeing Reinhardt we weren't expecting it. Cage switches onto the Doomfist, yeah, sure, but when you're going for quick respawns, that's kind of standard. So you expect that a little bit more, but still, that was a very good look, and I think Shoes Money Crew might need to reconsider their dive options, especially as we head into the mecha phase.
I think they were just broadsided by the fact that there was a Reinhardt Zarya comp on the field, and they went, that's okay, we think we're the better team, we can just keep running what we're going to run here, and it'll work out fine, but their game plan just didn't come together. And it looks like we're going to be seeing more of the same from both teams here.
Yeah, so far, not a whole lot of switch up coming in. I think that if you're on the side of Vasta, you're fine with that. You're fine with just continuing that momentum as you see you might have it. As we look ahead, though, yeah, mentioned it, not a whole lot, but these, I think, really needs to start getting these hacks onto the Reinhardt, onto Rocket.
Yeah, it really needs to be very, very quick at generating this EMP because it is a big nutcracker. Sab, this is a good pick for him and a good pick onto the enemy team. There's 2 picks on the back end of that one, and this is going to be Shoes Money Crew looking a lot more calm and collected, much more the Shoes Money Crew we were expecting to see, Wolf.
Yeah, definitely, and at least the awareness is there from Vasta. They realize, lost fight, just might as well throw yourselves off the ship into the ground below. I never actually looked below Mecha Base.
It's water, I believe.
The water below then.
Yeah.
But Shoes Money Crew now going to have the opportunity to reposition here, and wholesale swaps coming in now from Vasta Gaming. That's going to cost them a little bit in the ult economy.
But if you're looking at the tank line here, there's not been a huge amount of ult charge developed for Shoes Money Crew, so you're not that far behind in some places. Seiko's already got the Bob online ready to go, can afford to hold on to this for a little while longer because right now he's got the high ground advantage. You're going to see Abs open things up here with the Coalescence, tries to burn down Hades, but Feast is the one that gets the pick here. Rocket's going to go down early, and Vasta, they've pushed in, they have committed ultimates, and they've not really found too much with it, but given what they had to work with, kind of understandable.
Yeah, and I'm hoping we didn't see from Vasta an early show of their hand that they prefer that Reinhardt, because it just looks like Shoes Money Crew have quickly adopted to that. They've learned how to pick it apart a little bit better. Maybe that was just a very specific, initial first fight strategy. But as we look ahead, support ultimates online for the Money Crew. Oh. The Primal about to be online, and as soon as this pause goes underway, Naru going to be close to building that grab as well. I mean, EMP to match that. There's going to be a lot of things working for the Money Crew. So if you're Vasta, you kind of have to start thinking, how can we prepare for those?
I think that one of the big things here is that Vasta need to find a way to deal with Sab. I mentioned to you before the broadcast that Sab is certainly for me one of the better Ana players in the Contenders Trials ecosystem. Charges these nano boosts incredibly quickly, finds great value with both the sleep dart and the anti-nade, and you cannot allow him to have that much value. I want you as an exercise, Waltham, to watch the next time Sab is in a position to charge an ultimate up, how quickly that comes on board. And taking that value away from Sab and away from Shoes Money Crew is going to be a really good way for Vasta to open this up.
I certainly have to agree. And as we look ahead, last game we were talking about, the Ana plays real well against the Roadhog here. We're seeing Sab still get these really high value heals, the big cooldowns coming through without having to worry about, Rocket or Nipahog on that Roadhog without that massive threat coming in. So to see an Ana player shine, even in instances where the compositions don't necessarily enable that. I think I have to agree it does speak to a pretty good support line in general. I'm so far willing, if this goes their way, to just chalk up downtown to a little bit of warm up for the money crew, but I think that's all just a matter of, again, how this continues to play.
Yeah, it feels like a combination of warm-up and just genuine surprise. Like, maybe they were so busy scratching their heads that they only had one hand available to actually control what was going on, and you really need both to make this work as a competitive game. And Shoes Money Crew are not going to be caught in that trap. Again, they've already forced Vasta to play their game, having easily taken out the Ryan Zarya comp when they were expecting it. So, yeah, don't expect too much more deviation from this sort of dive-centric composition.
Yeah, but now as we see the setup from Maimone trying to get onto that Ashe, or at least scouting out, give their team the information, as we can see, but it's not enough to take Rocket.
Yeah, too slow, unfortunately. Sega's able to take Rocket out of the fight. We're going to see Maimone try and generate a little bit of ult charge here at the back end of the fight, but we've got to see them move quickly. And Vasta are just being picked apart, player after player after player. Abs is down. They'd already lost Maimone and Rocket, and we're at 92% here, and Vasta are just not here. They're just not anywhere near the fights.
Yeah, now it feels like Vasta have to be that team that adjust and change their playstyle from that very slow comp that we saw earlier, but now they're trying and again down early.
Oh, the jump control there was incredible. Secures the pick, extra damage coming in from the Nano Booster as well. Haley's looking for one more, won't find it, but the damage might already have been done here. Chases. Oh, we actually got the flip here. Vasta somehow found enough point presence to get the flip, but it's now down to Nipperhog to keep this alive. We're seeing the rest of Shoes Money Crew take a position on the point, and the kills are coming up very heavily in their favor here. So fair play to Vasta for getting some score on the board, but it's likely to be as far as that one goes.
Yeah, I mean, 9%, you get roughly a 10th. We're going to see some more stalls coming out, but overwhelmingly in favor of the Money Crew. And now we're at a 1-to-1, and I still have that worry. Did Vasta show their hand a little bit early? Are they just having trouble switching from the Reinhardt to the Winston? Because Rocket, I don't know if it's Rocket's fault necessarily, but it seems like they are dying rather quick in a lot of these fights.
Honestly, having watched Vasta play yesterday, it's a little bit surprising to me to see the Reinhardt come out, because they had another fairly difficult game yesterday against Young and Beautiful, and we didn't see any of this from them. Maybe they know what their position in Trials is. They know that they haven't got the opportunity to stay up in Trials or make it up into Contenders, and maybe they're trying stuff now. Maybe they're experimenting with the meta with some of the changes that have come through.
Yeah, and experimentation certainly valid, but one has to question, when is the appropriate time for it? I'm sure they're still trying to get these wins. We talk about, that pride of the win coming through every time, and if Shoes Money Crew wins one map, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, they're happy, but they're also not going to be looking to let this go in a very soft fashion. So, I mean, I'm sure that they'd be pretty chuffed with themselves if they got the 3-0. I think I'm using that word right.
Yeah, I was just going to comment, actually. It's very strange to hear an American voice using the word chuffed, but you did, in fact, use it correctly. I'm aware that it kind of sounds like it might be a dirty word, but it's not. It just means really pleased.
Yes. Okay. Well, great. I'm becoming a little bit more international every day here, Phil. But as we look, it does appear that there's a restart coming for these teams, so we will be heading to a little bit of a break.
Yeah, we shouldn't be gone too long. Hopefully we're back ready with you after a couple minutes. Welcome back, everybody. And frankly, of all the times to require a hardware reset at the start of the round before anybody has gained any ult charge is absolutely the best time for it to happen. Sab's back in, and he's now on the Moira.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing a little bit of a change there. Oh, I thought we were going to be... Oh, we are seeing the Torbjorn Reinhardt come out once again. Tells me that Vasta used this as kind of a very first fight strategy that they're willing to throw away here, but it's a little bit risky to throw away your knowingly throw away your composition in these instances.
I guess they just want that one pick, and then you can set up in a much more defensive fashion with the Torbjorn, and you're going to discourage Fees, and you're going to discourage Seiko from these rather flimsy characters here. But it is, I'll grant you, a bit of a gamble. Hades takes a swing there and receives the fire strike to the face. First cap's going to come through, and it's going to come through in favor of Vasta here, but nobody so far has found any kind of a pick here. Naro will fall a little bit low and retreat to the safety of the rest of this team, and if you're Vasta here, you are happy for this fight to take the entire 99 if it has to. Well, Maymoon's got the first pick, and it will be Hades taken down. Sab's able to get the Coalescence out, and Seiko finds the triple out of nowhere, completely flips this fight on its head. Kage's going to go down. There will be a little bit of goo on the point to contest with, but we're likely to see the flip coming through.
That is so unfortunate. You get this composition out specialized for that initial fight, and then you just get taken down by a triple bomb coming in from Seiko from seemingly nowhere. I didn't expect to see that coming. No grab to lock it down or anything. But it looks like they're not quite giving up on it. They've seen the success it's had, so they're gonna recontest with it.
Yeah, and of course they're very close to some ults here as well. There's not a lot really that can get in the way of Rocket's Earth Shatter, and that could really be a difference maker here. He's only a couple of fire strikes away from having it on board and ready to go. Kage is going to be hacked by the EMP. In fact, it is a full-on 6-man hexadecimal EMP, and Rocket's going to go down here to Sab. It's the 1-man advantage, and Shoes Money Crew not actually pressing too deep into this one just yet. They're happy just to trickle these kills out as long as they need to. Self-destruct's going to come in. In the meantime, though, Hades is looking to get the environmental kill onto Maymoon, and Naru somehow finds a triple. Rocket's going to go down to the jump pack environmental kill, and that is, you're right, you're hearing it correctly, the team kill bell.
Yeah, so supreme play coming out there. Fees managing to get the big hack, as you mentioned, but 4 ultimates used in that team fight. Pretty costly. Nippa going to be, I believe that's a swap coming through. May have used the grab early on, but really only going to be Rocket and Cage trying to get anything with their ultimate values. Cage doesn't find anything. Rocket finds 1.
Yeah, that's it's not a terrible start. We would have really liked at least something out of that high noon. We've got the Molten Core thrown in, we've got the Sound Barrier thrown in here, and it's brought them durability, it's brought them time to throw in the damage, and now there are 2 kills on the table and counting for Vasta. They're looking to flip this one back over. It has gone into overtime, though, for Shoes Money Crew, which means they only need to win 1 more fight to take this map.
Yeah, and if you're on the side of Vasta, you need to bunker down. You need to really not get caught out anymore. You need to hold it, and Abs having this Coalescence might be the exact lead and might be the exact opening that they have to take.
But if you're Shoes Money Crew, you can lose 2 or 3 fights here. It's not the end of the world. Like, just go in, get those ultimates on board and ready to go. We've already got the EMP. We've nearly got a Pulse Bomb on the table, but you've got to wait for something a little more impactful. It's another 4-man coming out from Fees, though, and when Maymoon gets worked over here, MVP goes down to Fees. And even with that Coalescence in the offing, even with the pick onto Hades, it's looking unlikely that this is going to go much further here for Vasta. Nipperhog has a bit of charge and does work down narrow, but we get the flip and we're into OOT. There's nobody left here from Vasta to work it through, and Shoes Money Crew put their first point on the board.
Yeah, and that was a game of inches, but it came to that Sombra. She translocated out with 12 HP, and even if you get that 4-man, that Sombra being out of the fight still might be a little bit detrimental there. But able to get out of there, and because of that, the kills just pile through. Overall, we're seeing now Shoes Money Crew strike back, and we're looking a little less dominant than they did on Mecha base. We saw a couple fights go the way of Vasta, but overall, they seem to have stabilized Vasta. Perhaps, I don't know if I like them trying to go on that Torbjorn for multiple pushes, the Torbjorn and Reinhardt, I should say, but I can see how it would be difficult to switch out of that mindset as well.
What I will say, though, is that Vasta have so far looked a lot better on this bespoke Reinhardt comp than they have in trying to mirror Shu's Money Crew. So I think there's some mileage here for Vasta in sticking with this pick. It might not be the easiest way for them to win, but there's a chance here it's the best way for them to win.
That's certainly true. I do have to kind of bring up the point here, although I agree with you. Is that because they went from, that Torbjorn Reinhardt composition to one that now has to initiate fights, that has to be a lot more aggressive? So is it because they didn't have the mindset for that play style, or their mechanical skills were just leading them more towards the characters themselves that they were initially playing? It's an interesting dynamic to see, but Vasta, I don't know if they'll be able to carry that composition into other maps as we look ahead. Reinhardt just not the most feasible lately.
It's emblematic of a map type where brawling is a viable strategy. So anywhere that's kind of equally contestable for both teams, where you do come together and meet in the middle, it does become a lot easier to run a Reinhardt composition. When you are running a less symmetric map, like our next one, which will be Hollywood, where you are either trying to hold high ground or push in from low ground, it's going to be a lot harder to run a tank that doesn't have the sort of mobility that a Wrecking Ball or a Winston has. So I think it is going to be a lot harder, as you say, for them to keep running this composition.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited now for Vasta, because this means I get to see a new dynamic of them if they don't run that Torbjorn. I like seeing how teams can, play different looks. Call it meta sickness or whatever you like, but I get tired of just seeing the same team go, or the same compositions come out from every team. And it's part of why I think that this meta has been a little bit more dynamic. We're seeing the Roadhog, but we're also seeing Winston, Zarya. We're seeing a number of different looks that nobody's locked down yet. And this is very crucial, where teams like Vasta can very well set the pace, but if they don't, it puts them in a very uncomfortable spot.
It's certainly an interesting meta to be casting. It's not always that easy, Orphan, to pick up what's happening where and why, because rather than Goats is the archetypal example of the team fight happening in one place. What we've got at the minute is the team fight happening in sometimes 6 different places at once, and you kind of have to come into this post hoc analysis of oh, well, it's because this happened and then that happened, rather than just going, well, they all press Q in the right time. So it's a fun, dynamic meta, but it can be a little bit hard to follow.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's a meta that continues to play for Shu's Money Crew, although they've already got their one map win that they need. But, I was pessimistic about it, but it looks like Vasta going to continue forward with the Torbjorn. At least that's what they're lining up with in the attack room so far.
Yeah, I mean, any other team, you'd look at this if you hadn't seen them just play another map with this composition and go, well, there's no way they're coming out with a Torbjorn, but they clearly think there's still some mileage in this one, and I'm inclined to agree that if this is the thing they think they're best at, sometimes the comfort pick is the right pick. Rather than opting for the main choke, they're just going to be rushing here through onto the low ground. Hack will be interrupted, but Kage takes a lot of damage on the way through, as does Nipperhog here, but they will all survive and then want to make this full rotation over into the cafe, but Nipperhog will receive the D-Mech. And now it's a 5v6, and they are trapped behind enemy lines, and without that D.Va to soak abilities, they're in a rough spot.
Yeah, at what point do you just regroup with your full 6, or do you just wait for the D.Va? On the plus side, you're looking at positives here for the side of Vasta. Abs, very high up on that Moira charge so far, 70% to that Coalescence. Fees is the only one, and Seiko coming close to matching.
But that's disgusting from Fees. Ack comes through, won't quite generate enough ult charge to get the EMP, but whilst that was all going down, Vasta have made a very long rotation back onto the low ground. Now back again over towards Cafe, now that they're back in a 6, but it did cost them one ultimate to make that happen, but they found the pick onto Seiko. Seiko is now down and out, and I don't think Kuba's in a position to actually get that res off. It's too big an investment in time. So Vasta with the man advantage, and now with the second man advantage, Kumba goes down. FaZe comes up with another phenomenal EMP, hits all 6, and the damage starts to come through. There's the manual hack, the chain hack over onto Nipperhog, secures the DMAG, and even with that one-man disadvantage, Shoes Money Crew find a way to make it work.
Yeah, Sombra just seems so powerful lately. You have to question, you know, why isn't she being seen more often? We're seeing those hacks come through, disabling everybody. And, you know, we saw the hack come through on a composition that you don't necessarily think would be that impaired by the hack. The Torbjorn and the McCree specifically. Once that overload's been popped, the hack's not going to do as much. But still, finding huge value there, getting the kills. And Fee is still trying to build up ult for another one.
And he's already nearly halfway there. He's been getting these very, very quickly. And that last fight only cost him the Primal Rage and the EMP. Vasta are going to have some answers here, but not all of them particularly easy to use when you look at how mobile the rest of Shoes Mini Crew are to get out of the way of some of these. It's going to be Kage that pulls the trigger first here with the High Noon, but Shoes Mini Crew, they make themselves scarce and they can't find anything with it. We'll see the flashbang connect there onto Hades, but they've already lost Rocket, and now they've got to deal with the Bob as well. Seiko finds one Maimon. And this is going to be more or less it done here for Vasta on this offensive round. They've got to start thinking about swapping things out here, Waltham.
Yeah, the Torbjorn just doesn't seem to be doing it. I get why you would run the Torbjorn for some anti-dive purposes, but Hades is pretty much the only threat that's immediately jumping you. Fees being a little bit more reserved, staying in the back. So it makes it very difficult to see where the value lies in this Torbjorn, aside from that 7th man turret. We're going to be seeing the ults compile for Vasta here, so hopefully they're able to get some big value for their benefit.
And they have a momentary advantage whilst FaZe isn't quite back in the fight just yet, but they've taken so long to make this rotation that he's more than likely to be ready to throw in yet another EMP. And it's another big one! They keep hitting everybody here, but this time Vasta are able to keep themselves more or less alive through this. Nipperhog is still in the fight. Rocket is still in the fight. Kage falls, but Nipperhog will have the self-destruct ready to go, and Rocket takes Sab out of the fight, and they might have just enough here to bring this back. It's unlikely that Shoes Mini Crew are keeping themselves in this fight. It's taken them a long old time to do it, Waltham, but Vasta have finally cracked point A.
Yeah, better late than never, but good lord, that seems more like a fluke almost coming through from Shoes Money Crew, because that took so long for Vasta to get in on. We are going to be seeing some swaps come through, which I think is great. You need to take those opportunities, and it's going to be looking at very dive with a Widow, so Cage going to be trying to find some early picks. The question is, can they find it, and if so, how does the capitalization come about?
Well, Shoes Mini Crew playing on the high ground, so easy now for Kage to actually find where his opponents are seated and try and find a headshot in over the top. There's a jump up from Rockets. May have just triggered the nano boost there onto Hades, who will find a pick onto Nipperhog, and Rocket is kind of caught out in no man's land here. Will eventually return to the team, but looks like this push may have stalled out now from Vasta.
Yeah, Vasta looking like they're going to have to take the knee back, walk it back to spawn just so they avoid any more losses and that drain on the time bank. But they thought they might be able to capitalize upon Hades. Not going to quite be the case. But they're going to now be going up against a grab, and that's going to be very difficult if Nipperhog doesn't eat it. They can lock everybody down as soon as that dive comes through, and it goes out, finds a couple.
Grav's going to connect, and now Abs is forced to throw in the Coalescence to try and keep his team alive. And it looks like we're going to see Vasta maybe momentarily just backing off for now. Pulse Bomb comes out, will just clip Seiko there, but doesn't do too much to take him out of the fight. And as we approach the 1 minute mark here, in fact, as we pass it, we see Shoes Money Crew once more rounding out in control of the fight.
Yeah, and it's going to have to be changes in play style, at least coming through from Vasta. They need to start making some progress, and these last moment come-throughs are not going to quite be it. We see Fees creeping around in that back line, which is the last place you want Fees to be, it feels, in every single one of these instances.
Oh, hello. Kage coming out here on the Soldier. Fees takes a bit of damage before TPing out again, and this is an interesting pick from Kage. I guess it allows him to take a bunch of different angles here and keep the cart in contestation. But, you know, where's the burst damage potential? Where's the pick potential here? Because right now they're making a slow rotation up onto the high ground to get Kage into position to make something happen here, but it's taken far too long. Having said that, Tank come up with 2 kills apiece, and Kage will find the pick onto Seiko. So once more, as we get deep into overtime, Vasta find a way to keep themselves in this fight. It's now down to Nipperhawk with the 2 supports to keep this cart rolling. One more fight win here from Shoes Money Crew sees them stop the payload.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, they're going to have a little bit of momentum with these ultimates building up. The self-destruct, the pulse bomb, Coalescence, and Sound Barrier are already there to keep them going, but they're certainly not fighting that empty. MVP going to have to be very careful considering that EMP from these.
That's a great entry frag. Seiko falls now to the pulse bomb. Fees is in position at the back here, and Kumpa gives his life to bring Seiko back into the fight. And Wamemo now on the Tracer, suddenly coming alive in a way that they just were not on the Torbjorn. And somehow Vasta have kept this moving all the way through in overtime. They found an answer to everything Shoes Money Crew have thrown their way.
Yeah, and Shoes Money Crew looked like the communication just wasn't there. Fees should have known that their team was not in position to capitalize on that EMP, still went and committed it. If the swap comes through, that makes a little bit more sense, but it doesn't seem like it is. That second point's going to get captured, and as we look ahead now, Ult's leaning heavy, if not completely there, at least more there for the side of Vasta.
And that was a really unfortunate pick there. Seiko down yet again, but at least we'll get traded back out for Kage. Wamemon coming in on another pulse bomb, finds the stick. We'll only find a tank here for this one, so no picks, but a lot of damage in, which translates even to ult charge for Shoes Money Crew. Kage is going to hold on to the tactical advisor for now, and I think it's going to be difficult for him to find somewhere particularly impactful to put this, because that's going to go into the waiting defense matrix and the Winston bubble. Self-destruct also thrown in now by Nipperhog, not finding anything. And this has been a great ult reset period here for Shoes Money Crew. They were at a massive disadvantage, but Vasta have thrown now almost everything at this. But it is starting to find them value, as kills are coming through here from Vasta. Vasta, having been stalled out for so long on point B, do not want to give up an ounce of momentum.
Yeah, and Rocket getting so dangerously low to losing their life on the Winston. Now going to be switching back into the Reinhardt. Very curious to see how they play with the cart on this one. As they get closer and closer to those spawns, the Reinhardt can get more and more impressive. Then perhaps a Winston could going to be giving up that ult charge when they're going up against basically 6.
You got the EMP self-destruct, but the self-destruct is such a difficult ultimate to land that doesn't find too much value outside of a DMEC. But that's now Vasta effectively tankless and at a huge player disadvantage. There's very little chance here of the respawns coming through to keep the cart contested. There is still somebody winding out the fight on the cart, but the overtime wick is going to tick down, and that's as far as the payload goes. And Shoes Money Crew have a target in mind for a second point in the series.
Yeah, and proper is due to Vasta based off of their time bank on the first and on the second. Was not expecting them to carry it as far as they did, so definitely have to give them their propers. And again, it's one of those questions: is it because of or in spite of the Torbjorn picks coming through here? Because it took them a while to get that rolling, and it's always going to be the question for me: is it more effective than what else they could be running, than say like a standard dive or even the Roadhog?
And here's the thing, right? Well, Wamemon has been forcing this Torbjorn, but we saw him swap over onto the Tracer and just be absolutely nutty at it, like generating pulse bombs ridiculously quickly, finding picks, finding sticks. Why would you not be running that from the start?
Yeah, it's a pretty questionable choice here, but one that as casters we're just never going to know until we get them in the interview booth here, unfortunately, as much as I would. But we look ahead now, and it's going to be the same look. It's going to be Vasta running the Torbjorn, running the Reinhardt. And part of me wonders, does Rocket playing this Reinhardt impact them playing the Winston? Or does Maimone's Torbjorn affect the Tracer? More so for Rocket, because the aggressive styles have to be variable there.
What a sleep, though. Wow. Nipperhog does escape on that one, but really, you should have been absorbing that one with the defense matrix. In comes the dive, Hades up onto the high ground, but knows he can't overstay his welcome and drops down again. But Seiko gets into the back and deals with Kage. There's going to be the turret taken down, and suddenly things get a lot easier for Seiko and Fees. They're going to push up the stairs, catch the wraparound here, and Seiko's in a great position to punish this. There's the hack onto Nipperhog. We'll see the DMEC coming through. Abs goes down. Nipperhog gets DMEC'd. And this is very, very quick from Shoes Money Crew.
Yeah, Shoes Money Crew looking to set a blistering pace in comparison to their opponents. Basically, first fight and they're done. Now, the question once again becomes, does the change come through for the side of Vasta? It looks like the spawn doors closed just as some of them were coming out, so they may be trying for a quick respawn, but they need to be careful not to get too staggered here.
Oh. Can't quite find the headshot there from Kage, and Hades leaps into the front line to help Seiko survive through that one. And it's going to be aggressive positioning now from Shoes Money Crew to take a forward position to stop the cart coming into full contestation.
Yeah, and so far we're looking ahead, just a little bit of free cart progress moving up, and now things still very good for the Money Crew. They have a bunch of ultimates in their pocket. Maimon and Rocket, and Abs, the closest ones to having ultimates build up on the opposing side, might not be enough.
Seiko with a drop down on the pulse bomb finds the stick. D-Mech comes through with a little bit of help there from Hades, who has the Primal Rage, ready to go and help him survive through this if he needs it. And the last thing you want to be is Vasta in a small room when Hades has the Monkey Rage ready to go. The 3K with the Primal Rage. What a play from Hades.
Yeah, a lot of times you think about the whole hog as being very lethal when in an enclosed space. Primal Rage can be pretty bothersome too, as it turns out, but now things might start to turn around here for Vasta as they start to lean on these ultimates they have coming up. They have the Molten Core to buy them a little bit of space. We're going to be hearing it come online now, actually.
We'll see the hack come through as well. Graviton Surge locks them all up nicely. Not even going to need the EMP from Fees. He's happy just to spray in from range. Chases down Abs, will get the pick. And that's going to be nearly 4 minutes and a group warm-up there of the calf muscles from the rest of Shoes Money Crew.
You just got to practice those fundamentals sometimes.
Yeah.
I can't blame him, but Rocket in a very unfortunate spawn spot, just going to have to be trying to buy off any time and dying for their efforts.
Yeah, man, there's a minute there where, like, you know, in cartoons when people are really hungry and they see characters turning into, like, steaks and burgers, what Shoes Money Crew saw there was Rocket as a big walking pile of ult charge.
Well, as we look ahead, that ult charge is going to be paying off, as now, once again, you mentioned it before, Sab going to be having that nano boost online quick. We're basically in a one-fight win territory for the side of Shoes Money Crew, and they have 4 minutes 45 to get that one win.
Fees coming into the back with the EMP, and this is absolutely correct. Wants to deal with MVP, make sure that the sound barrier can't come out or comes out early at the very least. There's the sound barrier out, but it wasn't quick enough for Rocket, and it wasn't quick enough for anybody to get themselves back onto the point. Shoes Money Crew, 2 points on the board here.
Yeah, and Vasta continuing with this Torbjorn against the perhaps best understandings of both the casters in this booth. But as we look ahead, it doesn't seem like they're determined to switch off of this. So instead of saying they should do this, they should, go to this, option instead. I want to perhaps consider how Torb implies on Junkertown. It seems very questionable to me, especially on that first point. It might give them a lot of trouble on that attacking phase.
You've got to be running long-range DPS on Junkertown, even if it's only for point A, right? It's just the most open map in the entirety of the middling-sized map pool of Overwatch. Like, we have seen a little bit of Widowmaker coming out, but not enough. Like, we've got to have that from the very beginning here. It's got to be the opening pick from Vasta.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be thrilled to see Vasta on these long-range hit scans and really show us, some of that hard mechanical skill instead of leaning more on kit-based characters. Now, I'm not saying that, Torb doesn't take skill to play, but when it talks mechanical skill, I think that there's a lot more of that I would prefer to see out of Vasta, if not for just a change of the pace, like I talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I don't really see a world where the rush comp works out well here for Vasta. And I don't want to overstate this, but whilst it is your last map in Contenders and you know where you have landed in the overall standing of Contenders trials, there's still the bigger picture to think about, right? This is still the meta in competitive play for the foreseeable future. This is not the time to be experimental with things.
Yeah, it's really not. You said it right there. Experimentation has its place, but when you're on the screen and when you know eyes are on you, unless you're trying to throw people off the scent, which sure, if Vasta's trying to do that, they've done that successfully. But why would that matter at this point in the season, in the standings?
Yeah, really, you want to keep that for theory crafting and maybe scrims. Like, throw this kind of thing at scrims. And maybe that's a side effect of what we're seeing here. Maybe Vasta have had some success using this in scrims, and they're just going, okay, cool, it worked in scrims, let's bring it out in an official and see what happens. Unfortunately, Shoes Money Crew know exactly how to deal with it. And I'm kind of expecting we might actually get to see some of the Fees Widowmaker here. So Fees is a player that I've been following for a couple of years now because he plays in a local LAN series over here in the UK. And the thing he's known for is his hit scan play. So McCree, Ashe, Widowmaker, all very much in his wheelhouse. I'm sure he'll find value with the Sombra here, but I'd love to see him given the opportunity to spread his wings with some long-range hit scan.
Yeah, and you talk about the hit scan. I'm gonna bring it back to Vasta here. I actually think that Vasta has a chance if they keep Kage on this McCree, or at least would have. Not necessarily here on Junkertown. I don't want to reframe that in any sort of way. Certainly not first. But I think that if there were, perhaps a better way of utilizing that McCree, of getting him into the fights, other than just, the Torbs locking down a specific area of control, and Reinhardt has one shield and can't really cause a whole lot of disruption. I think Kage could have had a lot of potential there. We saw some very strong plays coming out in those control maps that I really liked. I'm a little bit disappointed because it just seems like Vasta doesn't quite have the coordination or the mental plan set up to just be on autopilot.
Okay, it looks like we are now finally ready to go into what could very well be our last map of the series, Junkertown, and in fact it's going to be the last map of this entire season of Contenders, or Contenders Trials even.
Yeah, what better way to wrap it up than with a great big bow of you and me, Phil? So we are the end of season present to everybody watching right about now. But
does this mean I need to start getting undressed as the unwrapping of the present, or should I leave that for later?
That's the after party, all right?
Okay.
Well, that's the after party.
Okay. Glad I didn't jump the gun on that one.
It also does mean that we'll be seeing the Torbjorn as potentially one of those little special presents that are coming out in online, looking to dispense a little bit of the hurt with the turret. But fortunately, I can take a little bit of a breath of relief as these initial map or character picks come online. The double sniper does come out from Vasta, and this is what I was hoping to see. I'm really pleased now.
Yeah, and actually, the Widowmaker Hanzo is a look we have already seen in Contenders Trials earlier today in our first season, Vox Nihili versus Samsung Morningstars, and it did have a small amount of success, but I do think Hanzo maybe not in the best place in the meta right now.
Yeah, I mean, we used to see a lot of Hanzo for, bursting down those shields, those storm arrows, very good for that, and now you just don't see a lot of shields. They're going to be going up against Naru on that Sigma, so some potential there, but unless you're landing some crazy headshots, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, both teams running the Hogma here. I think great for dealing with long-range snipers, particularly the ability to reposition shields. And if you are Shoes Money Crew, you can afford to play passive for a couple minutes here.
Yeah, you really can, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to wait for that push to come in from the side of Vasta, who are now getting that cart rounded that corner, going to start building up some of their own.
Oh, Fees gets the body shot and the second body shot to take Kage out of the fight. There is still the possibility of a race here. They do have MVP on the Mercy, but Shoes Money Crew likely to try and camp that body. And Wamemon finds the equalizer. There's no res available, and Wamemon gets the second here. Look, the second this guy moves off the Torbjorn, he finds ridiculous value. It's like taking off the weighted training jacket and finding out he's incredibly strong.
You love to see a story arc come through like that. And Vasta pretty much barreling through this first point so far, not having too much issues. Sure, Fees gets a kill here or there, but it's going to be the contest coming out at the last minute.
Oh, that's big though. Hades with the hook finds Abs. Abs did get that anti-healing off, but with the immortality field there to keep everybody else in Shoes Money Crew healthy and in the fight, they just swarm their way back onto the point, ready to keep the hold up.
Yeah, and now we're seeing those ultimates come online. Coomer gonna be having the amplification window coming up. Saab gonna be having the Transcendence as well. So a lot of support potential here for the side of the Money crew as they look ahead. Enough to certainly keep them through Maimon's ultimate of the Dragons.
I mean, that was a really great position there by Rocket to try and get around that kinetic grasp. And I'm not quite sure what happened to Hades there. I think blasted into the Dragons. A lot of damage coming his way and taking him out of the fight. That's the 5v6. There's the 4v6 as Seiko goes down here. Shoesmani who have some options to delay here to burn time off the clock, but they're unlikely to win this fight. Hades just about to get back in, and they find kills. They find ways to do it. I wish I'd been spectating MVP to see him get that pick onto Fees, but it hasn't mattered at the back end of the fight because it's Shoesmani crew with their name to the left-hand side of the kill.
Yeah, you can't count out Shoesmani crew. It seems it looks like things will go in one direction of the fight in terms of in favor for Vasta, and then Shoes are just able to turn it around, make things work their way. They didn't have to invest the trance either, which is massive coming through because that will be able to keep them up through perhaps the potential gravitic flux coming in from Nipahog.
There's an order of operations here where actually you can undo that if Abs can land a big Bionade before the Transcendence comes off, before people lift it up into the air. But it is a difficult task. It's got a lot of mechanical requirements behind it. So there's the win condition now for Vasta Gaming. We've just got to see if they can pull it out. We'll see the Infrasights come out here from Fees as we round the 1 minute mark. That anti-nade didn't connect in the way that was really required. And as the whole hog comes out from Hades and deals with Kage, we're likely to see another team fight win here from Shoesmani crew.
Yeah, and Fees trying to get these grapple shots. Not been doing a whole lot, but in these moments, Fees doesn't have to do a whole lot. It's looking like things are just working out for the front line of Shoesmani crew in such a strong fashion. Maimone does get the 1 kill, so this might be the turnaround that the attacking team needs.
Yeah, and will not have the pulse bomb ready to go as well. Throws it in, won't find a target, but buys a little bit of space. We'll see the Nanoboost coming out as well, and Wamaimon goes on a tear. Finds both support, Abs finds Seiko, and as we get into overtime once more, this is Vasta in the final seconds, finding ways to turn this around. However, they're not out of the woods just yet, but as they take Naru down, that might be where they find the energy to get through to point B.
Yeah, and Hades in a very uncomfortable spot, stuck behind enemy line, but it's gonna be enough time.
Yes, Seiko tags back in, and we get the amplification matrix out from Kumba. Seiko's able to find Kage here. Not out of the woods just yet for Shoesmani crew. Hades doesn't have the take a breather ready to go, and so will fall here. Fees gets a kill at the back end of it, but the cap will come through.
Yeah, and this is suddenly looking a little bit up for Vasta. Again, this look is so much better than the Torbjorn we saw earlier on. And now we're going to have the opportunity to have a little bit of DPS dominance in terms of those ultimates. They have the Pulse Mine up that they can get onto Sab. They have the Bob coming out soon from Kage that they can use to just absolutely choke down a lot of lines of sight. I'm curious to see how they utilize these ults.
Seiko's already found a pick, and somehow it's a pick onto Rocket, but Rocket's in a position now to be fairly easily rezzed back in here. So Shoesmani crew not really in position to mount an oppressive hold just yet, and Vasta are going to keep this payload moving. Seiko up against Wamaimon here as well. It's the Tracer 1v1. There's the Flux, catches 2. Nipahog's going to go down to the follow-up damage from Naru. Pulse Bomb out from Wamaimon connects with the shield from Naru, who is still just about keeping himself in this fight.
Yeah, overall, it's looking great for Shoesmani crew. They get the Pulse Mine onto MVP late, so not going to have that mercy to res anybody up against the fight starting faster once again. 80s takes a nap, but Liana gets dealt with, and now as we look ahead, the mines are going to be up here for the attacking team, the Gravitic Flux as well, but we're seeing the swaps come in from the DPS players. It's now going to be matching DPS in that Sombra and Tracer, but Fees a lot closer to that EMP.
Oh, wow. Seiko just lands the final fist to the face of Kage and takes them out. Did see Hades use the whole hog there, but I don't really think that found too much value, and they may want that back for this next fight.
Yeah, they certainly will, especially as now we're going to be seeing the EMP come in. The Transcendence to respond to the Graph Flux.
Yeah, it's classic. Exactly why they've got the Zenyatta in this composition. Seiko went for the wraparound there, couldn't quite find the pick onto Abs, who will get this supercharger out. Naru gets hacked out of that gravitic flux, but it's another big EMP coming through from FaZe, but there's little to no capitalization on it. Hades is the only one that finds a pick here. Shoesmani Crew are going to have another go at holding this here, and it's going to be an overtime push again for Vasta.
Yeah, overall, I liked the hack that went out from Maimon onto Naru, immediately obliterating that gravitic flux. You need to find those openings as Sombra, and Maimon seeming to do excellently on that, and it's going to be a last-minute touch, if any, coming in from the Money Crew. It looks like they're going to hold off.
No, it looks like a good amount of forward positioning here from some members of Vasta will stop the recontest coming through, but now they've only got 90 seconds to make it through arguably the hardest part of the map in Point C.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty rough. Moving ahead, as we look, Shoesmani Crew, again, getting in that very early positioning, looking to just perhaps get the vantage point, the height advantage over their opponents.
As the hack once more onto Naru, he's being bullied up here on the high ground, knows that he is now prime target for Wamaimon, who will now have the EMP ready for this fight.
And we'll have to see how it lands. The hack going on to Nipahog to start, gonna make the attacking team back up for just a moment as they get their cooldown to reset and the health topped up.
But there's a world here where even if Shoesmani Crew opted to not contest this cart, it's still going to be an overtime cap here for Vasta. They've got a lot of ground still to cover, and they've got a lot of Shoesmani Crew still to deal with. And now the Translocator's down from Wamaimon, so he can't really get into a position to use this EMP aggressively. This is a great time burn here from Shoesmani Crew.
It certainly is. And time is of the essence for
There's
Vasta.
the EMP. Shuts down the immortality field, and Wamaimon finds Naru to 1-for-1 trade, but Wamaimon comes out on top, finding the second here. And Vasta are now back in control of the cart, but it's into overtime, and Shoesmani Crew, they will have a couple of answers, more than a couple of answers here.
Yeah, the opportunity comes alive. Vasta, however, has that straightaway in sight. They're so close to that third. They're going to be having a few ults in pocket on both ends of the field. The EMP to initiate early comes from FaZe.
Yeah, we'll find a couple, and the focus fire is there to take Nipahog down. Here's Hades on the side, wants to get the rotation through and find a pick, but Wamaimon puts paid to any hopes of that one coming through. Seiko gets hacked, and more often than not, a hacked Tracer is a dead Tracer, and that's going to come true just then. Rocket with the hack on him as well, but has the high charge, and just turns around, blind fires at FaZe and knocks him out of the fight. Rocket is doing everything here for the team. He's the major source of damage, he's the major source of HP, but now he's down and out. Vasta still in this, but Shoesmani Crew coming back in, swinging back on through, will knock them off the point, and that's as far as the payload goes.
And how humorous we see Hades at the last moment switching onto the pick. We've been seeing Vasta play this entire time. That Reinhardt coming out, getting a lot of armor, a lot of cleave damage right onto the field, a lot of burst cleave damage in that 75 a swing, I believe. So overall, a little bit of irony there, but this is going to be where the cart stops for Vasta, and Shoesmani Crew once again have that line in the sand that they know they have to cross to get this victory.
And the thing to consider here is that whilst Vasta have made it all the way to Point C, in both their Point A and Point B caps, that happened deep into overtime. And Shoesmani Crew have shown that they have the speed, the grace, the determination to take this just in standard time bank. So Vasta, they've got to really up their game here to get the defense rolling and find a way to get a point on the board here in this final match of the Contenders trial season.
Yeah, this is looking to be it, and Vasta, the changes came through, but they may have come through just a little bit too late. However, it will now be their turn to defend, and they're once again gonna be on that double sniper composition. Maimon gonna be on the Hanzo here as we look ahead, and Seiko might be taken to the skies here, although that's very bold to do against any Widowmaker for themselves.
Even bolder, potentially, the Doomfist pick here. This has got to be a troll, surely. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, that's a lot more sensible. That's kind of what I was expecting.
Yeah, Seiko looking a little unsure, shaking their heads as they're swapping in between characters, but eventually will be finding it. And now, Maimon already building up quite a bit of ult charge off a few spare arrows.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of burst damage available here for the Hanzo, particularly if he's got MVP as the Mercy Pocket, but Vasta already giving up a lot of space here, and Fees just hunts Kargate down! Like, that had no business connecting. There was such a small pixel of space.
Yeah, some impressive mechanical gameplay coming through here. As we look ahead now, we're seeing the positioning from Vasta have to be very locked down, allowing for a lot of space.
Oh, man, Feast just opened this right the way up. Nipperhog's down. It's going to be down to one moment to deal with Kumba, but that's it. That's the only kill they get here. And Shoes Money Crew have completed point A in a little over a minute.
Yeah, a really rapid pace here. A little bit surprised to not see him go through it a bit faster based off of off the kills we saw coming through massively. But Maimon must have just heard me and looking to strike back, put some enemies in the ground for their own team.
Yeah, want some respect put on his name on this one. And ults coming out in spades here. We got the Graviton Surge and the whole hog out here already. And look at the Space Shoes Money Crew are taking a look at our hook. MVP thought he was safe behind the shield, but Hades had other plans.
Yeah, we're very much in the zone where Vasta can just start crumbling. Like, insert things that crumble here, but right now they just need to recompose themselves because they're about to start falling like dominoes.
Yeah, they will lose Kumba here, but they've got the numbers advantage in such a dominant way here that it's unlikely that Vasta are going to be able to regroup to do anything about this. Seiko is just bullying Rocket here on the high ground. Pulse Bomb comes out, won't connect, might just have accidentally given 40 energy charge over to Rocket, but he won't keep that alive through the grave. He's going to be coming back at 0 here, and you noticed Fees just stood on cart, casually rolling it in. That's how confident Shoes Money Crew are right now.
I mean, there's nothing else to say here. The time bank speaks for itself. I would be amazed if Vasta was able to have a 5.5 minute hold, not even to third, to right before third. But Sab getting some kills. It looks like everybody's just feasting from the Money Crew.
Oh, this is almost like Shoes Money Crew have been putting up a great performance all match. They've now decided to really up the ante for this final one. They are done. They want to go home. They want to go back to their ladder games because they are not giving Vasta a moment's rest.
They're really not in the late stick on the Naru, but these fights are just evolving into one long fight. It feels there's no regroup coming through here, Phil.
Do you know what it is, Waltham? It is 6-man deathmatch, 12-man deathmatch even. Goomba's the first to die again here, but Fees is able to find the equalizer. Can't quite get the pick there onto MVP, but it don't matter because the kills are there from everybody else here. Hades with the whole hog helps himself to a heap of space on that one. And the payload rounds the final corner here without Vasta in a position to really contest.
Yeah, Fee's going to be trying to go up against Nipperhog on that Wrecking Ball. Not going to quite be it. That's going to be pretty much the only test coming through here. And Shoes Money Crew, that was just an unceremonious slaughter.
Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate. It's the way that a Swiss bracket works, right? You are going to occasionally have one of the best teams against one of the lower ranked teams, and when that happens, you get a one-sided match like this, which is not to say that Vasta haven't at times looked fairly impressive, particularly when Maimon is taken off of the Torbjorn onto something more impactful. They were looking a lot more improved, and some definite high notes there from Vasta.
Yeah, some high notes, but not quite
not enough.
High enough in the register, so we're going to be seeing the walk away end up with Shoes Money Crew, being the victors here.
Yeah, and of course, more than one map in had definitely secured their place up in Contenders proper for the next season. Sadly for Vasta, that'll see them finishing at the lower end of the bracket. I don't quite have the maths worked out, but I suspect this is Vasta in a position to actually be falling back down into open division for the next season.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate spot, but it's the way it has to go. Like I mentioned before, you have some come in, you have to have some lead. You can't just have the same 12 teams or whatever it be in, contenders, in open division, in trials, etc. So as life leaves, new will enter, that is to be sure. But now we get to look ahead a little bit. And fortunately here, Phil, it looks like we're going to have a little bit of an interview. I see Fees kind of waiting on the wing to have a few words with us.
Yeah, just seen him pop into the interview waiting room. So the second he's in here, we'll have a chance to talk with the HitCan specialist from Shoes Money Crew about how he feels about that match just finished.
Yes,
and here we go. Fees into the chat. Congratulations on the win. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. It was a relatively chill win. We qualified for Contenders, which is nice.
Yep, nice is one way of putting it. Congratulations again on making it back up into Contenders. So, looking forward, what's the game plan here? How much prep work have you got to put in to really compete in Contenders?
Like what I said in my Contenders interview from on July, I said that our team was required months of practice and work before we can compete with the top teams. And it's been pretty much 2 months since I said that, and we're at this point now where our team is very strong, and I'm confident we can compete with any team in Contenders currently other than Hurricane, probably. So.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of that as a caveat. Yeah, we can beat anyone except maybe Hurricane.
Yeah, I mean, we took a map off them at EBC, so I guess that's icing on the cake, I guess, for us.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Now, I wanna go into what it felt like me and Phil were talking about a lot of the map. You guys were going up against a Torbjorn, and it seems like you guys didn't really have too much of a problem outside of that first control sub map. What was your main concept for dealing with that as you guys went through this match?
When we went into the match, we said they're probably going to play some weird stuff, and it's going to be funny, and we're going to have to adapt. And we expected Hog or something like, or anything like that, but they rolled out with a tall Brian, so it caught us off guard. But then after the first round, we just adapted by just playing more of a poke style dive, controlling space, and just poking them out with the Ash, and looking for anti-nades when they rotate towards us, and we just shut them down before they even get to our faces.
So I want to touch very briefly, just going back in time to your Contenders Trials first game of the week against Young and Beautiful, who clearly have a revitalized tank roster, I think it might be fair to say. Yeah. So you're obviously maybe a little bit concerned about British Hurricane. You've already lost once to Young and Beautiful. Are you concerned that we may have potentially another super team in the region? Are you worried about facing them again?
Young and Beautiful have a stacked roster, and it's a team that's going to improve very fast and become probably, most people's eyes, the next team to compete against Hurricane. But in our match on Monday, it was an extremely close game. We could have won, or we should have won. It came down to the single last fight and Koff, and but just based on the experience the players have, they clutched it out at the end, which is unfortunate. What really happened was Jonah just got a 3k pulse bomb last fight when we were 3 up, so
that'll do it.
Charlotte, yeah, I guess just Jonah just clutching. But yeah, we was about to win the game, but they're all good players and they're a good team, so they clutched it out and they got the win fair and square.
And I guess the last thing I myself have to ask is, you guys put up a very good display against Vasta, but there were some times where it wasn't as flawless a game as possible. Do you guys have any plans for what you can kind of do to tighten down on that, considering that at those higher echelons, every inch, every micro mistake might matter?
Vasta did the right thing, what any underdog should do, and they forced us to adapt and make us not play our own game. Otherwise, it would have been much more of a stomp. And so props to them for putting out what they did. They played really well. I expect them to do well next trials, but honestly, for our match, we were just we knew we qualified for Contenders before the match started, and so we were still trying to win, and we wanted to get the 3-0, but we felt we had no pressure this game. We just had fun.
Okay. Well, Fees, thank you very much for coming and joining us today. Before we let you go back to your team to celebrate having made Contenders, is there anything you'd like to say or anybody you'd like to shout out?
I'd like to shout just from Psycho, because he didn't get to do the interview. He's shout to Nelly Clap.
Okay, first time we've heard Nelly Clap's name, although we have had a few random people shouted out on the broadcast today. Thank you very much again for Fees for joining us, and we look forward to seeing how you make the run through Contenders in September.
Thank you, bye.
And for everybody else watching today, that is unfortunately the end of not just today's broadcasts, but the end of the Contenders Trial September season. So that's going to be it from myself and Waltham, everybody else here at Monkey Ball and Reflash involved in bringing this to you today. Waltham, before we leave, anything you'd like to say to the nice people at home?
Yeah, if you're a prospective caster, get paired up with Big Hungry Phil. He's a great casting partner, especially when you haven't casted color in what feels like a year. So, Phil, I really appreciate being able to be on here with you and cast. Also, much appreciation to Zathon. They've been there for what feels like the good and the bad sometimes.
Yeah, it's been a long, tiring broadcast week, but we love to be here to bring these games to you, and hopefully we're back here for Open Division and then Contenders Trials again next season, and we do hope everybody that you'll join us for that later next month. Good night and take care.